been a bad boy. Good evening, Council. Please be seated. Yeah, okay, yeah. Let's have a look. I would like to welcome everyone here this evening to this meeting of Newcastle City Council, and to welcome also anyone watching online. Of course, it is a packed agenda tonight, a lengthy agenda, so I'm sure Council will help me to get through it with as little difficulty as possible. Can I first of all ask for apologies for absence for tonight's meeting?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. We've had apologies from councillors Anand, Campion, Cummings, Kemp, Lawson, Patterson, Jackie Robinson, Stockwell Walker and Woodick.
Any further apologies for absence that haven't been included there, please? Sorry? Stephen Wood? Okay, any others? No, no other hands going up. Minutes of the previous meeting, which are included in your papers. So do we agree the minutes of the special meet? Yes, there's a hand going up there. Councillor Lovett, yes? Okay. Here we go.
Apologies, Lord Mayor. It's the council meeting that I would like to talk about. Sorry.
You've got a comment to make on the minutes?
On the minutes.
Is that the minutes? Is that the special meeting or the ordinary meeting minutes?
The ordinary meeting.
Okay. In that way, case, Councillor Lovett.
Yeah. Thank you, Lord Mayor. It's really unfortunate that Councillor Williams is not here tonight because this is the third time I've had to ask about bus shelter on Gosforth High Street for the number 30, 31, 33 and 35. I don't want the 8th winter in a row to go by without that bus shelter on the high street.
Well, let's not get into the detail of it. You've made your point, Councillor.
Yeah, so,
okay, we don't actually have matters arising as a normal issue. Okay.
I'd like to know when I get a decision on this, and when I get an answer from
your comments will be
Williams
passed on,
or somebody else.
Yes, your request will be passed on. Okay. Thanks very much. So does Council agree the minutes of the special meeting and the ordinary meeting held on the 4th of September? Agreed. Okay. Thanks very much. We have a number of official announcements that I'd like to make. First of all, we're actually approaching Remembrance Sunday, of course, so the Bishop of Newcastle is conducting the Remembrance Sunday service at the War Memorial in Eldon Square on the 10th of November. Members will receive invitations to join me, and I attend every year on behalf of my community, and I hope to see as many of you attending with us as possible for such an important and symbolic event. The second announcement is I would also like to take the opportunity to remind members of the session next Wednesday, 10th of October, about the Tyne and Wear Lord Lieutenancy here in the Civic Centre, and the Prevent session to be held on the 23rd of October, which is being held online, both meetings to be held at 5:30 p.m. So if councillors can make a note of that and perhaps try and support those meetings. In relation to tonight's business, because we have some, I think at the back of the council chamber, some important young visitors. I'm not sure, I'm looking around to see if they're here. So there's been a request to change the order of business this evening and bring forward item 14, which is a motion in relation to corporate parenting. The notice of the motion is care leaver status as a protected characteristic to become after item 6, public question time. Is this moved and seconded? Do we have to have this moved and seconded? No. Does Council agree? Council agreed to that. Thank you very much indeed. I've got a request that's not included in my papers, but I've been reminded that Councillor Peter Allen is back amongst us. So to welcome Councillor Allen following the recent by-election in North Jesmond to the Council chamber this evening. So welcome to Councillor Allen. We have no correspondence that we've received this month. And in relation to petitions, we have one petition I understand. And can I call on Councillor Coles to present this petition to Council?
Could I substitute for Councillor Coles?
Oh, right. Oh, I see. Okay, right. So you're making an early appearance then, Councillor. Okay, yes. I know.
Thank you, Council. The petition is on behalf of residents across Newcastle who have signed a petition on pollution in the Ousburn, which reads as follows. We, the undersigned, called on Newcastle City Council to work with the Environment Agency, Northumbrian Water and other agencies to take immediate action to end sewage overflow pollution into the Ousburn along the length of the river. In particular, we call on the Council to lobby the government for a change in the bathing water regulations to ensure that the Environment Agency is required to test water quality on a regular basis during summer months and to alert the public when the water quality is unsafe. The petition has already been submitted electronically to you.
Okay, Councillor Allen, thanks very much. Before I ask Councillor Ali to reply, I think that's your maiden speech in your second coming, so perhaps we can acknowledge that in the usual way. Councillor Ali, could you respond, please?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Good evening. The Council recognises the unacceptable levels of pollution in the Ousburn and the public demand for improvement. We have set up the Ousburn Way Partnership following an offer of initial seed funding from the Rees Foundation. The partnership includes the Environment Agency that has responsibility for main rivers in England, including the Ousburn, Northumbrian Water and North Tyneside Council. The Ousburn Way Vision document sets out proposals to improve the environmental quality in and around the Ousburn, improving access and recognising the importance of the river to local communities. Northumbrian Water's Drainage and Wastewater Management Plan sets out how the water company intends to tackle storm overflows. The Ousburn Way Partnership is working to accelerate improvement measures for storm overflows that contribute to pollution levels in the Ousburn. The Council is in the process of recruiting an Ousburn Way Programme Development Manager who will develop an investment programme for environmental improvements in the Ousburn over the next 2 years, as well as progressing opportunities for quick wins on the ground during that time. The post will report direct to the Ousburn Way Partnership Board. Alongside this, an Ousburn Action Group, spearheaded by an independent programme manager, is being set up. This would provide the scientific context for the Ousburn Way Programme Development Manager to work in, with a collaborative monitoring agreement for data capture within the Ousburn catchment, and related to this, the creation of a digital platform for data to be democratised to the public through maps, graphs and explanations for what has been found and improved. Recognising the public interest in this issue, an Ousburn group of citizen scientists would collect data as identified in the monitoring agreement. It should be recognised that storm overflows are by no means the only contributor to pollution levels, and eradicating them will not, on its own, bring the water quality up to a level that improves the status of the Ousburn. It is equally important to address chemical contributions from agricultural runoff and heavy metals from highway runoff, as well as misconnections into surface water sewers following development. A robust investment plan will need to address all of these pollution sources. The Ousburn Catchment Partnership is the forum that brings together key stakeholders like the universities, rivers trusts, wildlife groups, developers and landowners that can contribute to improvements in the Ousburn. We are working towards a point at which we will have an investment model in place with funding sources identified, backed up by scientific research and advice. And I can email this response to you so you have a fuller response from me. I formally accept the petition, Lord Mayor.
Many thanks, Councillor Ali. Does Council agree to receive this petition? Thank you. We now move on to public questions, and I understand we have one request from Mr Moore, and although probably Mr Moore is quite familiar with the procedure by now, just a reminder that you have 5 minutes to present your question. And the response I have here is from Councillor Williams, where I understand that Councillor Williams is... Oh, you are? Yes, welcome. And I think we have a roving mic or something to save you having to... Yes, OK, over to you then, Mr Moore.
I, like many residents of Gosforth, welcome the implementation of the 18-month bus lane trial. The bus lane has reduced Gosforth High Street to a welcomed single lane in both directions. The restriction to cars has been predicted, changing the driver's behaviour, where drivers have sought quicker journeys by using residential streets in Gosforth. This has included Google, which now recommends Linden Road southbound in preference to the High Street and Kenton Road. Google Maps also recommends vehicles to the industrial estate at the end of Christian Road via the tight High Terrace, which is also blighted by vehicles going south, ignoring the no entry sign. Moore Road south north in the evening is often a car park from Church Road to the Grove. The junction of Salters Road High Street can often be brought to a standstill by vehicles backing up by blocking the junction due to the bus lane. Traffic restrictions can play a part in delivering a range of policy objectives. These include measures to reduce congestion, enable more walking and cycling, reduce rat running, create more pleasant places to live in and work, and improve, importantly, road safety. Fair and appropriate enforcement of these restrictions is a key part of delivering the objectives of these schemes. It is normal for a budget to be made available to stop rat running in residential areas due to the implementation of bus lanes for safety measures. Can you confirm the blocking of Moore Road North, creating a safe cycle lane, the stopping of no right turn on Linden Road, if not the total closure at the north end to vehicles, the conclusion of the traffic safety initiative for the terraces by closing the final terrace, High Terrace, to make cross the road safer for school children. The implementation of a yellow box, potentially with enforcement cameras on the junction of Salters Road High Street. Finally, the long-awaited installation of the camera on the yellow box on the junction of Christian Road High Street.
Thank you, Mr Moore. Well within your 5 minutes. Thanks very much indeed. So, Councillor Williams, presumably from a sedentary position, if you'd like to respond.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And good evening, Mr Moore. Thank you for your question regarding how traffic moves around Gosforth. With regard to the bus lanes being made permanent on Gosforth High Street, we looked at the data and feedback from the public. We know that the scheme works well, with bus passengers seeing improvements in their journey times and bus reliability, which is exactly the change we need to encourage people out of their cars and onto public transport as we create a more sustainable city. This is only the first phase of the plans for this area, which focus on prioritising public transport. We'll be looking at further improvements, especially around active travel, which we know people are keen to see and which will further support people in being able to make sustainable choices on how they move around the city. We were contacted by residents of Linden Road about traffic speed and road safety on their street. The concerns largely centred around the use of Linden Road as a route by through traffic to avoid congestion on High Street and the wider main road network. Consider a proposal for a no-entry restriction. We collected traffic data to determine whether there was a need for traffic management measures to be implemented. Whilst the level of traffic in Linden Road is more than we would like to see on a residential street, there is no evidence to back up the claims that traffic flows have increased following the introduction of other schemes elsewhere in Gosforth. Historical data, however, shows that traffic flows have been consistent over a period of more than 15 years, with data collected in 2008 showing higher traffic levels than this current year. As a further comparison, in 2016, traffic flow was almost identical to that of today. Based on the review of the traffic data, including speed and accident history, an intervention could not be justified at this stage, but we will continue to monitor. Following engagement with members, we also consulted on the Hyde Terrace to all motor vehicles at the Preston Road junction. The result of this consultation showed that a number of residents opposing the scheme was 135. This was significantly more than the 28 comments received in support. Even those living in Hyde Terrace were split on their response. We have recently procured some additional surveys to identify the number of contraventions of the no entry restriction from Preston Road to Hyde Terrace. The result of these surveys indicate that on average over 100 vehicles a day are flouting the
30 seconds, Councillor Williams.
This is clearly a cause of concern and will be forwarding this information to Northumbria Police for them to take any action may be necessary. We'll also add this location to a list of potential locations for camera enforcement as part of our newly acquired powers. As you've noted, we have proposals for the enforcement of the yellow box junction at the junction of Preston Road and Great North Road, and the team are currently working on the final design regarding the location of the cameras. I've run out of time before I've completed what I wanted to tell you, so I will put it to you in writing.
Many thanks, Councillor Williams. Mr Moore, 1 minute to respond.
Oh yes, I will reply. We'll just focus on Linden Road. Linden Road is now identified by Google as the main road to go north-south through Gosforth. It is a residential road. By the council's own figures, 1,000 vehicles a day are using that road. And your councillor, you are saying that is acceptable. The junction of Jubilee, Linden Road, has multiple shunts. Google has identified that as a hazard. So, you know, it is on Hall of Gosforth, there is unanimous support on Linden Road for putting no entry on the right-hand side. It is a main cycle route for that side.
10 seconds, Mr Moore.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It is the main cycle route for that side of the High Street. It is lethal to cycle on that road.
Could you wind things up now, Mr Moore, please? Thank you.
I think I have finished on Linden Road. Thank you for giving me the option to speak on behalf of the residents of Linden Road. Thank you.
Very much, Mr Moore. Thank you. We are now moving to the slight amendment to the agenda when we're going to a notice of motion, item 14, which is about care leaver status as a protected characteristic in relation to our joint responsibilities as corporate parents. So I call on Councillor Storey to move the motion, seconded, as I understand, by Councillor Christine Morrissey.
Lord Mayor, Council, and may I take this opportunity to thank everybody in the room for allowing me to bring this tonight. This is a motion that I'm very proud to move, and with the power to make real difference to the lives of care leavers in Newcastle, not just through the actions it brings for our organisation, but also the actions it calls upon to lead by example and influence other bodies to do the same. We want Newcastle to be proud of, fair towards and ambitious for all of its care experienced young people. And this council has a key role to play in setting standards and expectations for how our city supports these young people to unlock their potential and get the best out of life. We believe that making care leavers status a protected characteristic would significantly impact the barriers that care experienced people feel throughout their lives by recognising the duty that we have to put the needs of vulnerable people, including care experienced people, at the heart of our decision making. This council already has a strong history of listening to the voices of children in care and care leavers, Our participation groups bring their experiences and voices to the fore, connecting them to services we provide every day and the decisions that we make about our city. We need to do this more comprehensively and systematically, and we need to encourage our city partners to do the same. I'm glad that tonight we have young people here to hear this motion, and I want to thank them for their support. The fact is that this motion was originally proposed by a young person who was co-opted onto our Corporate Parent and Advisory Committee, and following conversations with his peers, and this is a fantastic example of the impact young people have on our decision making at the highest level. I did ask to have a young person come along tonight and speak to this motion, and unfortunately that isn't permissible in our standing orders. But I have got the voice here. I've written down what a young person has said, and I'd like to have the opportunity to read this out to you. We know young people are the future of this great city. We see it in our education settings, we see it in our employment sector and with our apprenticeships, and for those who are parents, we see it with our own eyes as they go through their development stages and find their feet in this ever-changing world. But what about care-experienced young people? To those looking in from the outside, we are just a group of young people who've had a difficult start to life and need extra support. We've been described as hard work, and sometimes not all that bad. However, that is not what we are. We are about hard work, and no, we are not all bad. Very few of us are. What we really are is a group of hard-working individuals who want to see a positive, supportive city so that so that young people in the future who are care experienced can be proud of where they live and still feel that they can offer a lot to this city. To really unlock their potential, the potential that care-experienced young people have, and to support them for years to come, there is one solution. Give us our say, let our voices and opinions be heard, understand the impact your decisions have on us. Let's make the city a welcoming space for care-experienced young people. Let's make being care-experienced a protective characteristic. By making care experience a protected characteristic, we will strengthen this council's commitment to voice by ensuring that we listen to and act upon what care experienced young people tell us. And that's really, really important, and that we consider them in all decision making. I want to give huge thanks to the young people who've helped us shape this, but I also want to give thanks to Councillor Joanne Kingsland, who has been a long-term champion of the group, who's led the way, and I also want to thank every member of that group, because we work very collaboratively together. Hence, we've been able to bring a cross-council motion for your consideration tonight, and I think that in itself is a huge achievement as well. So thank you very much. And I think I might have even finished in time. Yes!
Thank you very much, Councillor Storey. Clearly my training is paying off, but over to Councillor Morrissey now to second the motion.
Thank you. I want to thank Stephen for coming here tonight and providing those words so that the corporate parents, all of you here in the chamber, can hear for yourself what a fantastic bunch of representatives we have here in Newcastle for children in care. I've had the honour and privilege of being a member of the Corporate Parent Advisory Committee for the past 5 years, where I've learned so much about what it means to be a child within the care system. I've heard so much about the lived experience of these children during meetings, which they actually take over the agenda and hold us to account, as they should, to being involved in outings and craft activities with the younger children, who are all very willing and able to discuss their lives. Through meeting these children and young people, I've come to understand that they don't really want to be treated any differently from their peers, but what they do want is a level playing field. One of the most powerful statements I heard was from Stephen and Christina several years ago, who were asking why care leavers couldn't be offered jobs in the family firm. That's here. In the way that Billy Brown's dad could give him a start as a joiner in his business, or Sally Smith's mum could take her on as an apprentice hairdresser. If we are the corporate parent, why can't we provide the help when it's most needed in this huge business that we run? A very profound question indeed. And I am pleased to see that we have made inroads on that one. Another time when I was working with the younger children's group, and what's important for them to know when moving to a different foster carer was if they could choose their own duvet cover. Two very important issues in two very different life stages, but no different to any other child. Many care experienced people face discrimination, stigma and prejudice in their day-to-day lives. Public perceptions of care experience can lead to discrimination and assumptions being made, wrongly in most cases. Making care experience a protected characteristic would provide greater authority to employers, businesses, public services and policymakers to put in place policies and programmes which promote better outcomes for care experienced people. It will make the UK the first country in the world to recognise care experienced people in this way if we keep on doing this and we keep asking other councils to do the same. I'm absolutely delighted that Councillor Story has asked me to second this motion, and I urge all my corporate parent colleagues to support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Morrissey. I have three named speakers on the motion: Councillor Kingsland, Councillor Mains and Councillor Barnett. So I don't know if you want to, if you still want to speak, make your way to the microphone in that order. Councillor Kingsland. Okay, obviously I was given information about speakers anyway, but if we're just, if there's no one wants to speak on the motion, then is the motion agreed by Council? We now move on to item 7 on the agenda, which is questions for oral reply. And as we've indicated previously, the questions are set out in the council paper, so you don't need to read the question. And the first question comes from Councillor Mark Mitchell for a response by Councillor Irim Ali. So over to Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell, for your question. The Welfare Rights Service does provide a citywide offer, so it is a service that's across the city. It provides a citywide offer of support to all residents across the whole city. The additional support provided into the named wards is based on additional funding, which is provided by those wards to offer additional targeted welfare rights support. I hope I've answered your question.
Councillor Mitchell, supplemental.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you for the answer, but I think it doesn't really go to the point I'm making. I am very happy with the service that is being provided in West Fenham, where we have residents able to go to the Fenham Library once a week to have specific and personal contact with the Welfare Rights Service. However, this has a direct impact on our ward budget, and is a service that is only being offered in a few wards of the city, rather than being offered across the city based on the needs of residents. So this service is not available, for example, to residents in the Outer West, or indeed in the east of the city. So while I have no complaint at all with the decisions being made by West Fenham councillors and others, I am asking why this personal service, which directly delivers benefit to residents, is not being centrally managed and centrally funded across the city so that it is delivering the service to every person who needs it, rather than end up with a lottery based on which ward you happen to live in the city.
Councillor Ali.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. My understanding is that every resident is entitled to use a service that is cities-wide. However, members do have the option and the choice to use ward funding to provide welfare services from their wards. And as the Cabinet Lead, I don't have any influence over that decision. So if ward members want to use their ward budgets for welfare rights services through their wards, then that's a decision that they're entitled to make. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ali. 2 supplementals. I've got Councillor Cookson to ask a supplemental. I have no further indication for supplemental.
Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Cookson.
Councillor Ali, I'm a member of Voluntary Sector Liaison Group, and back in October 2023, we were told that it was estimated that almost £90 million of benefits still go unclaimed across the city each year. And that's £90 million that could be being spent back in our local economy each year. And I'm fully aware of the excellent work that colleagues do in the welfare rights team, but accept that as a council we could always do more. Back in October 23, we were informed about plans to introduce a LIFT, or low-income family tracker project, that would have helped residents right across the city claim unclaimed benefits that they're entitled to. If that project happened, it would be an opportunity to build on the expertise of the team in the East End and expand it to support the support given to residents citywide, rather than using ward-funded projects. Can you update us on that if you know anything about it?
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Ali.
Sorry, Lord Mayor, thank you.
Okay.
I will have to get details of that very specific project to you in writing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Ali. Thank you, Councillor Cookson. No further supplementals. We'll then move to question 2. The question is as put in the papers from Councillor Ferguson, to be responded, I understand, by Councillor Kilgour.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Local government is rightly a highly regulated working environment with a uniquely comprehensive set of standards, rules, risk assurance processes and accountabilities, all in the public domain. We have robust arrangements in place to ensure we deliver best value to our residents and strive to continuously improve our approach to this delivery. Firstly, to address your question of confidence in delivery, I want to reiterate what some of those governance arrangements mean for the people of Newcastle. Our Constitution, the Newcastle Charter, sets out our codes of conduct, our protocols and our policies, including, but not limited to, whistleblowing, complaints, declarations of interests, our ethical governance framework, including our adherence to Nolan's 7 Principles of Public Life, our scrutiny procedure rules, our financial regulations, and access to information rules. Our organisation demonstrates assurance that it is well run by its political leadership through numerous formal channels, including the Council's annual governance statement, external auditor reports, and regular reports by the Monitoring Officer to Audit and Standards Committee. In these channels, any issues are publicly raised, acknowledged, and robustly addressed. Secondly, I'd say that the people of Newcastle have shown their confidence and put their trust firmly in the Labour Party in recent months, at council elections, the mayoral election, elections of Police and Crime Commissioner, and at the general election. Because our residents recognise that cities like Newcastle have been at the sharp end of austerity imposed by coalition and Tory governments and forced to compete with each other over ever-decreasing pots of one-off funding. Our residents want a council which will deliver the services they need and deserve whilst balancing the budget. And our focus will be very much on delivery. Cabinet and the Council more widely will work with our new Labour government and our new Labour Mayor to deliver on Newcastle's priorities, to support people still feeling the effects of the cost of living crisis, to tackle the unacceptable levels of poverty experienced in our city, and to make our city healthier, cleaner, greener and more prosperous. If Councillor Ferguson is serious about increasing public confidence, then he will support our focus on delivery. He will stop the political point scoring and game playing and work with us to deliver for the people of Newcastle. And should I become leader in a few minutes, I'll make a commitment here and now that my door will always be open to hear from anyone in this chamber who wants to work constructively with my administration, and I hope you'll take up that offer. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kilgour. Supplemental, Councillor Ferguson.
Lord Mayor, I did have a supplemental prepared, but I'm afraid I'm not going to ask it, because what I have to ask on the basis of what I've heard there is, does the acting leader seriously believe that a political point-scoring answer in the context of genuinely held concerns across the political spectrum is seriously the way to restore public confidence? Is that seriously the answer that the public deserve?
Councillor Kilgour.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I see the head shaking, and I'm sorry you feel that way. But given the comments that have been in the press and elsewhere over recent events, not always helpful, not always thinking about the greater good, not always thinking about the people of Newcastle. So I will reiterate my offer. I am more than happy to work with anyone in this council chamber if they want to work constructively with the Labour Council, the Labour administration, for the good of the people of the city. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kilgour. We're of course allowed 2 supplementals. I see that Councillor Stone has been presumptuous by going to the microphone already, so I'll call Councillor Stone to be followed by Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I welcome Councillor Kilgour to her position, a putative position. We shall confirm that shortly, I'm sure. But in response to her kind invitation to offer to work with anybody with helpful suggestions, can I take her up on that? I am a member of the Audit and Standards Committee, and on Monday at our meeting, the committee agreed with me that we should be looking to respond to the Centre for Standards in Public Life's Chairman, Lord Evans's 20 questions that public sector leaders should be asking themselves and their organisations. Can I ask her, in a spirit of cooperative suggestion, that she agrees on behalf of Council tonight that this Council will respond by publishing its response to the 20 questions that public sector leaders should be asking themselves, particularly in light of recent events. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
I assume that you see that as a question, dear Councillor Kilgour, rather than a rhetorical question, but I'll allow you to respond. Okay, I'll allow you to respond.
With the caveat that I haven't seen those 20 questions. Yes, Lord Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Taylor.
I thought it was Marion.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Can the acting leader confirm that she and the Cabinet will answer candidly if ever asked in the future about their awareness of inappropriate behaviour?
Lord Mayor, I'm not going to be drawn into responding to something that could be constructed as commentary on an ongoing process. Both sides in any complaint have a right to a fair hearing. The process should be confidential, should be allowed to be completed and without political interference or commentary. But honesty can always be expected, yes.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kilgour. I have no further supplementals on that. We're down to the last 5 minutes, are we, on questions? So the final oral question is as put from Councillor Lovett, and I understand will be responded to by Councillor Mains.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'll make my response brief, or does Councillor Lovett speak first?
No.
No, that's right. Okay. In particular, in regard to the SLA, most of the housing land in Fordon and West Gosforth is not cut under the SLA with housing and communities. It receives the same service as all council-owned open space land, which is published on the council's website. The SLA covers enhanced works and housing sites that are not usually covered by the service standards. Cornwood House is the only location in Fordon and West Gosforth that is maintained under the SLA. The SLA with Housing and Communities Directorate has been agreed between local services, housing and communities and the Fairer Housing Unit. This has been reviewed for the current financial year and currently there are no issues. The grass cutting programme shows that the pedestrian grass cutting teams are in the Fordon and West Gosforth ward over the next couple of weeks, weather permitting. As per council policy, shrubs are cut back during the months of October and April so as not to interfere with nesting birds. Therefore, we cannot guarantee that all hedges in the ward will be cut back and trimmed by the end of 2024. although they would be done by March 2025 at the latest. Where possible, shrub areas that are particularly problematic will be prioritised during the shrub pruning starting in October. As the Council website highlights, reports of urgent and dangerous problems with shrubs or serious hazard blocking walkways or paths or issues causing serious visibility problems on roads will be assessed by highways, and necessary works would be carried out within 1 working day. Requests for general shrub or hedge maintenance will see any necessary works carried out within 6 months. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mains. Councillor Lovett, one supplemental.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I sort of expected the answer that I received. Councillor Mains, have you actually been out to have a look at the conditions of the gardens and the hedges, etc. in Fordham and West Gosforth? One of your colleagues in Kenton has actually had a complaint about the state of the grass and the weeds on Kenton Road. I keep getting emails saying that the grass is cut to the schedule. I don't believe that anybody has actually been out to check that it has. I've had housing officers and officers from Concordum out to have a look at the state of the council housing areas in Fordham and West Gosforth, who agree that things are not being done to the schedule. What I would like you to do is to bring everybody together to have a look at this. I know you said there that the SLAs are being agreed, but I would like you to bring people together to help make sure that this is fixed for the future and that I don't have to stand here again for the 3rd year in a row about grass cutting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I assume that has a question mark at the end of it. As a question, yes. Okay. Councillor Mains, if you can fathom that into a question.
Yes, Councillor Lovett. Yes, I will speak to the head of service, the directorates, and I will look at putting some process in place so that we can meet and have a look at this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I don't have any requests for supplementals, and we have actually used up the 15 minutes allotted for that item, so just one question mark for written reply was received, and the response is included on the supplemental agenda and published on the council website. So we move now to item 8A, over to the...
Thank you, Lord Mayor. On the basis that the motion should be debated, not just voted upon, I move under Standing Order 3D that item 18 on the independent inquiry be moved to item 13 immediately after the withdrawal of winter fuel allowance motion.
Does Councillor agree? No. Do we go to a vote? Yes. Is it seconded? Is that seconded? Yes, we seem to have several seconds and thirds and fourths, so we go to a vote on this. Go vote and hand raising. Do we have anyone hands raised, Councillor Morrissey? If you can stand up and indicate how you would wish to cast your vote. Yes, yours is a yes. Yes, and yes. Councillor Mitchell, Councillor Huddart, yours is a yes. Anyone else on this side with missed? On this side. Sorry, I couldn't hear there. You're a no. Okay, then if you can just speak up a little bit, please. At the back, votes at the back. If you can just give your name and your vote. Okay. Far corner. Councillor Stevenson, no. Did you get that one? And was there another hand I saw here somewhere? No, I've got all those. So the motion is 29 in favour, 33 against, so the motion is defeated. So that will remain as it is on the current council agenda. So if we now go on to back to item 8A, which again is the portfolio report in relation to Resilient City, and I call on Councillor Irim Ali to present her portfolio report. Councillor Ali.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It gives me great pleasure to present my Resilient City portfolio report that highlights some of the great work we are delivering in the city. While supporting the Council's political priorities of inclusive economy, anti-poverty and net zero, I have identified a further 3 priorities within my portfolio, and those being antisocial behaviour and tackling hate crime, waste and environmental crime, reducing congestion and managing traffic flow. I am also the Council's lead, as you know, for equality, diversity and inclusion, and oversee our approach to working with partners and residents around community cohesion. As you know, Black History Month takes place in October every year and is an annual commemoration of the history, achievements and contributions of Black people in the UK. Building on our commitment to be more fair and inclusive, we will be using the opportunity that Black History Month presents as a way to explore and discover and celebrate Black history, heritage and culture for our staff and our communities. This year's Black History Month theme is Reclaiming Narratives, focusing on recognising and correcting the stories of Black history and culture. As part of the Black History Month, the Council will promote the theme by raising and sharing narratives of Black and minority ethnic residents and workforce, consult on its refreshed equality, diversity and inclusion strategy and objectives of 24 to 28, ensuring it is evidence-led and informed by the city, continue to celebrate diversity by promoting the visibility of Black and other non-white colleagues and inviting them to share their experiences. In the current climate, the work we do to ensure community cohesion and resilience is a key priority, so that residents and businesses feel safe in well-managed areas that are free from hate crime and antisocial behaviour. We have an important role to play to ensure that our interventions continue, working with multi-agency partners and community leaders to promote unity, inclusivity and diversity. Much work went into preparing our city for any potential disorder and for ensuring that our communities were informed and engaged. As a city, we all have a role to play in maintaining and strengthening community confidence. In 2023, we launched our Newcastle City of Sanctuary strategy that outlines our commitment to provide a safe and welcoming home to those arriving in our city. We work closely with partners across the council and the city to deliver joined-up services for the people we welcome to Newcastle. By signing up to the Newcastle Armed Forces Covenant shows our commitment to the Armed Forces community. We are committed to ensuring its members are not disadvantaged when accessing public services. Many servicemen and women may require advice and support on issues such as housing, healthcare, education, training and employment. We are working in partnership to provide outreach services. I want to highlight the work of EPIC, which stands for Empowering People in Communities and is part of our Better Lives, Safer Communities programme, which is proactively engaging communities. The ethos of EPIC is to rebuild community confidence by working with residents and partners to collectively tackle issues and concerns that are important to the community and by involving them directly in decisions and implementation. All EPIC areas experience issues with waste, street appearance, graffiti, youth nuisance, substance abuse, crime and deprivation. These types of antisocial behaviour all contribute to the broken window theory, resulting in lack of pride, respect and belonging in the area, resulting in increases of crime and antisocial behaviour. EPIC focuses on community consultation, making sure the voices of the residents are heard, involving them in making decisions and delivering interventions into disengaged parts of the community, ensuring that services are meeting the needs of the community as well as identifying gaps in provision and creating new initiatives. We are now looking at options and how we can continue with EPIC beyond March 2025, will continue to be prioritised in those areas with the greatest need based on a robust evidence-led approach which looks at crime and antisocial behaviour levels as well as other issues such as health and deprivation. In terms of universal waste services, we want to be a clean, green and sustainable city that wastes less and recycles more. It's important everyone in the city does their best to minimise the amount of waste they produce by following the principles of reduce, reuse and recycle. I'll end there, Lord Mayor, and look forward to any questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ali. Thanks for the report. I would remind members that we only have 25 minutes for this item, and we're now 5 minutes in already, and I have 15 requests at questions. So we'll work our way through them. If anybody wants to forego their request to ask a question, please let me know. But we'll work our way through all the names, and then, Councillor Ali, you can do your best to respond, okay? So we'll start with Councillor Sathian, followed by Councillor Kane.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Ali, for the report. In the report, you mentioned in the case studies about the efforts made in tackling the illegal supply of vapes. I want to ask what can be done about the rising number of shops selling vapes, and also what we are going to do with the disposal of vapes. Thank you.
Councillor Kane.
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you for the report, Councillor Ali. Now we have a Labour government who was elected on a manifesto of zero waste. Will the Council finally embrace the zero waste policy that we all voted for 5 years ago? Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Yep, thank you very much. Councillor Hartley, followed by Councillor Mains.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Councillor Ali, I'm glad to read of the work you're doing to get the basics right on waste, especially as only 25.6% of our waste is now recycled, with Newcastle having slipped down to 326th place on the council league tables. But anyway, meanwhile, on the Biker estate, mainly in the perimeter block, the wall itself, many only have access to communal bins for general waste. And where there are recycling facilities, they're often contaminated. A problem that I'm sure is repeated across the city. Does the Cabinet have an ambition to address this to ensure residents have easy access to recycling facilities that they're calling for, and if so, how?
Thank you very much. Councillor Mains, followed by Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'll stick to just asking a question. Could I ask Councillor Ali what work you've done with communities since the recent violent disorder that we all experienced across the country, and to outline what the Council are doing to improve community cohesion?
Councillor Brown, followed by Councillor Mark Donnelly.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The Students in Newcastle Forum is an important body to facilitate community cohesion between the senior management at the universities in Newcastle, the student unions and Newcastle City Council. The objective of the forum is for the parties to work together to improve the quality of student experience and enhance the attractiveness of the city as a place to study. According to the terms of reference, the forum is supposed to meet every term or 3 times a year. However, the forum last met in October 2023 and no meeting is scheduled. Can you please confirm that the Council values the purpose of the forum, and if and when the forum will reconvene? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Donnelly, followed by Councillor Cairns.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. On page 4, ward governance and budget, one supported meeting is not sufficient. Wouldn't expect just to have one meeting a year for the council chamber. The other issue is ward budget. In Chapel Ward, we only have £3,400. It hardly gives much scope to do much. Surely there should be a lower and upper limit with regards to ward budgets. The last question is CCTV. We have redeployable cameras. These are now 11 years old. They are not HD and they don't have night vision. There needs to be some money and funding to resources. Obviously, as I previously said before, that can be done through ward budgets. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
I assume that was all absorbed into one question, Councillor. Yes. So we now have Councillor Cairns, followed by Councillor Cookson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Would just like to thank Councillor Ali for the report. As a food grower and someone who composts myself, I'm really interested in the programme of food waste. Could you tell us how the trial's been going on, and when will it be rolled out across the city? And what comms are we going what comms are we doing to actually increase participation across communities? Thank you.
Councillor Cookson, followed by Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Ali, for bringing this report to Council. I note that in your portfolio now includes school streets, but there's very little mention of them in your report. Given the apparent 100% success rate of the 4 trials we've done so far, I wonder if you can explain why the school streets programme appears to have ground to a halt, with only 4% of schools in Newcastle having a school street in place, and what support is being offered to the 4 permanent schools this academic year in terms of engagement with the children, parents and residents, and what the current enforcement model is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cookson. Councillor Williams, followed by Councillor Hall. Where's the roving microphone? Have we found the roving microphone? Councillor Ali, did you? I couldn't hear it, but could you hear it all right? Yes, I'm afraid the microphone seems to be defective, letting us down, the technology. You got the question? Yep, okay, no, that's good. Councillor Hall, followed by Councillor Barnett.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. What plans are in place to address the poor conditions of roads and pavements in Forden and West Gosforth? Can we have a timeline of when these roads and pavements, which were rated as poor in 2021, will be addressed? In particular, at the junction of Archibald Street and Salters Road, which is a street that has a very busy school within it. Thank you.
I understand, Councillor Hall, that brief intervention is your maiden speech, so can we perhaps acknowledge that in the usual way? So, Councillor Barnett, followed by Councillor Stone.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Ali, for your report. As a disabled individual, I wanted to know what work the Council has been carried out across the city for disabled people.
Councillor Stone, followed by Councillor Lambert.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Question to the Cabinet Member for Resilient City. She will know that I represent a ward which includes the Coast Road, where we've had flooding at various times in recent years, which has been linked to blocked drains of the main drainage system on the Coast Road. Would she agree with me that a major contribution to reducing flooding in Newcastle could be achieved by ensuring an effective citywide programme of gully clearance, and will she take some steps to try and make sure that happens on a regular basis across the city? Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stone. Councillor Lambert, followed by Councillor Huddard.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. My question is as follows. Clearly, the introduction or reintroduction, reappearance of neighbourhood wardens across the city, including my own ward of Kenton, is to be welcome in tackling both the reality and the fear of crime and antisocial behaviour. Would it be possible, resources permitting, that the neighbourhood wardens be rolled out across the city on a more regular basis? Thank you.
And Councillor Huddard followed. I understand Councillor Allen would like to ask a question as well.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. On that subject of neighbourhood wardens, I was going to ask Councillor Ali if she could supply us some information about the percentage of time these people spend in the town centre as opposed to the suburbs, because we've never seen a one and we don't know who they are. And my other question is about the vapes. You know, I'm really glad action is being taken about vapes, but I wonder if you are doing anything about the shops that supply the vapes to actually request them to use vape deposit bins, because some shops already do these and people can take the vapes back for disposal rather than throwing them in the ordinary waste. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Huddard. I have a further request from Councillor Rahman. That'll be 16, and I think we'll draw the line at under 16. So Councillor Allen, followed by Councillor Rahman.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. My question goes back and is in two parts related to what Councillor Ali has said in both this meeting and the previous meeting, as recorded in the minutes on Eastbourne pollution. I note what she said on the Eastburn Partnership and the work that's been undertaken there. Will she commit to firstly publish the vision document for the Eastburn Partnership and to make public all minutes of meetings held by the partnership in order, in her words, to accelerate improvement measures by Northumbrian Water to tackle storm overflows? And secondly, I note the Council at its last meeting resolved to write to the Labour government to request action on this national issue, that of pollution. Could I ask her whether that letter has been sent already? And if it hasn't, could I ask her to include within it the provisions in the petition submitted earlier this evening to get the Environment Agency to monitor the waters of the Eastburn on a regular basis by moving the regulations on bathing water standards?
I think you strayed into two questions there, Councillor Allen, but as you're new to the Council chamber, we'll exercise a little bit of leniency there. Councillor Rahman, to round things off.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Can I thank the Cabinet Member for this report, and the timing couldn't have been any better in this Black History Month, especially the report talking about some of the work on EDI issues. I've got a number of questions. Firstly, the report mentions the rollout of anti-racism and Islamophobia training for all elected members. What it doesn't mention is if this will be a mandatory training, which, in my opinion, it ought to be. Another question that I'd like to ask, I'll have to apply some context, Lord Mayor. Initially, I made a request to the Council back in 2018. I followed that with an email to the Leader of the Council on the 26th of September 2022 asking for the Council to roll out a LOTA, and I'll explain what that is, a LOTA at each of the toilets here in Newcastle Council. A LOTA is a plastic vessel for members of the colleague here, a plastic vessel with a spout used by Muslims and South Asians for personal hygiene. Like I said, when I emailed the council leader back in 2022 asking for the LOTA to be placed in each of the toilets, I did receive an acknowledgement on the 23rd of October 2023 that this was raised with an officer for LOTAs to be placed in each of the toilets. Can I ask the Cabinet Member to pursue this in view in this council chamber, yourself, Councillor Ali, Councillor Samad, Councillor Qureshi, Councillor Ali, Councillor Sathian, Councillor Sadiq,
Councillor Rahman, can we try and reserve the questions to the content of the report? I know there's a number of issues there that you're concerned about, but if there's just questions...
It is a question, Lord Mayor, and if I didn't apply some context, I don't think council members will understand. That's why I'm having to apply the context.
But there are time limits. There are time limits, Councillor Rahman, and I want Councillor Ali to be able to answer all the questions.
Sure. So what I'm asking the Cabinet Member is to pursue this matter with a firm commitment that this will be rolled out as soon as possible. And the final question, if I may, Lord Mayor, Councillor Ali.
I think we need to draw a line under it now, Councillor Rahman, because we are down to just over 5 minutes, and Councillor Ali has a lot of questions to respond to. So with all due respect, you've had ample opportunity to put your question.
Lord Mayor, I've got a number of questions. Are you telling me that I can only pose one question?
If you put your questions to Councillor Ali in writing, I'm sure she'll respond. But we are down to just over 5 minutes on this item, and it's not fair to other members if I don't give Councillor Ali a chance to respond to their questions. So, Councillor Rahman, please. Okay.
I will email the last question to Councillor Ali. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Ali. As I say, you now have about 7 minutes
to try and answer 16 questions.
A whole range of questions.
Okay, I'm going to try my best. Some of them are similar, so the similar themes. So if I can try and answer as many as I can, and whatever's left, and there will be quite a few left, as you can imagine, I will send an emailed response. So in no particular order, because some of them are similar. With regards to food waste, the trial has gone very well. We received a lot of positive comments from residents who are participating. We collected more waste in the second week than we did in the first week, which is really encouraging. It's still very early in the trial, so there is still a lot to learn in advance of rolling this out across the city. The mandate from government is that this must be introduced by April 2026, and our learning from the trial will inform us of the best way to do this. Given the trial is only in a small number of areas, we've avoided doing large-scale comms or social media messaging, which would be seen by residents who aren't part of the trial. To avoid confusion, we've tried not to do that. However, in the wards where the trial is taking place, we've been doing leaflets and letter drops, and as we build up evidence of the areas with poor participation, our waste engagement team will do some targeted work with residents in these areas. With regards to the work that's being carried out for disabled people across the city, we continue to celebrate diversity of our disabled communities by awareness-raising events and initiatives. We are currently a member of the Disability Confidence Scheme, which recognises our commitment to successfully employing and retaining disabled people, the people with long-term health conditions within our workforce. Our Community Champions programme continues to work with disabled communities to help improve information about well-being and health issues. This has included working with disability charities and organisations in the city to understand concerns and barriers to accessing healthcare. Work that we've done with regards to the recent civil unrest. During the week of protest activity in our city, we convened a meeting of community and faith leaders, and we're also joined by leaders of all political parties represented in this chamber. This was the start of a conversation. We remain in contact with those community leaders who attended the meeting and have already asked them how we can better involve them facing issues. The conversation has shown that we have solid foundations in how we engage with communities, but it is more important than ever that we continue to put them at the heart of everything we do. We are also in regular communications with a range of partners across the statutory and voluntary sectors to ensure a flow of information in both directions about any issues or concerns that are emerging within our communities. The city centre Safe Hub, yes, that has been a success. It was officially launched in April 24, so it's only been in operation for approximately 6 months. However, in the short time, we've seen some phenomenal results, and I've got a whole list of data here which I will email to the member. With regards to shops selling vapes, the number of businesses selling vapes in the city has increased significantly. This has meant that products are more accessible to children and young people. Products are being sold by not just retail shops, but premises such as takeaways and pubs, and this is particularly concerning. Intelligence suggests that the sale of illegal products is linked to individuals linked to organised crime groups, again particularly concerning, who had previously been involved in illicit tobacco, becoming involved with the supply of non-compliant vaping products. Northumbria police officers have linked with HMRC and trading standards to form specialised task forces to coordinate enforcement activities, and due to the serious nature of the related allegations and concerns, this close collaborative working has been highly successful and resulted in the seizure and destruction of significant quantities of non-compliant vaping products. To date, approximately 83,000 non-compliant vaping products with a street value of £1.2 million has been seized in the city. Following very positive engagement through Northumbria Police, several retail premises in the city have been closed by the Magistrates Court for 3-month periods, following issues identified with the sale of illegal tobacco products and vapes. These premises have included 3 on Shields Road and 1 on the West Road. Recycling vapes, yes, we have recycling sites across the city, which includes City Library and a number of libraries across the city. What else? Anti-racist training, yes, that is being rolled out, I believe, this month and the next, and we're hoping as many members will take up that training. The LOTA that you've referred to, Councillor Rahman, I believe that has not been taken up, but I will make sure that I speak to HR and see that that can be rolled out as soon as possible. I know we've talked about that in the past. Trying to pick one that can be quickly answered. Wardens, yes, I think we have about 10 wardens across the city. We are still recruiting more wardens. The recruitment of wardens has been challenging. However, we are still doing that and trying to increase publicity about the role of a warden. I know we have a recent warden that was in the press lately, and that did generate more interest in the public. We have some fantastic job fairs, Lord Mayor, and have begun a series of being able to offer jobs on the day. So I'm hoping that the take-up of those roles will increase. Gully clearance, I thought that was rolled out across the whole city, but I can look into that further. But of course, we have different patterns of rain now. We have more downpour, which results in gullies being flooded more quickly. But I can certainly look into that and see what else we do across the city. Poor conditions of roads, again, it has huge budget implications, and climate change has a huge impact on the state of our roads and how much we can afford given the budget constraints. I think I'm going to end there, Lord Mayor. Anything else that's left, I will email out.
That's just about on 25 minutes as well. Well done. You've
Thank you.
set the standard for our next item on the agenda. Thanks very much, Councillor Ali, for that. And the next item on the agenda is yet another portfolio report for our vibrant city. I again remind members that we've got 25 minutes for this item, and I call on Councillor Ahmad to present his report.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm very pleased to present my Vibrant City portfolio report to Council. The report provides an overview of my portfolio, highlighting key achievements, challenges and opportunities. I've also included 4 case studies as part of my report. These are issues I feel certain members will be interested in and include Creative Central Newcastle, Novum Festival, grass cutting vehicle tracking and pitch marking. The work of the portfolio focuses on enhancing quality of life for residents by promoting cultural, leisure and community activities. We aim to ensure that every resident and visitors to our city has access to fulfilling creative opportunities. Culture makes a city thrive, attracting confidence that invests and binds people in community. A programme of cultural interventions can deliver significant economic and social impacts, including more and better jobs, skills development, training, inclusivity, well-being and civic pride. Newcastle is recording strong growth in overnight visitors. We are also experiencing growth in the number of jobs in visitor economy. The latest data shows an increase which is almost 2% higher than pre-COVID. In the last year, we welcomed over 500,000 visitors to our libraries, loaned over 500,000 items, answered 150,000 inquiries, and supported over 8,500 hours of PC usage. We also delivered over 13,600 visa biometric appointments. Unfortunately, Newcastle's strong history of sport and recreation does not benefit all our residents equally. More than 25% of adults participate in fewer than 30 minutes of physical exercise each week. So we are working with partners to support the provision we have and to secure further investment to improve levels of physical activity for residents. There are a range of physical activities, leisure and recreational venues within Newcastle. The Better Gyms have 5 venues: East End Pool, Newcastle Trampoline Park and Gym, West Denton, Gosforth Leisure Centre and Walker Activity Dome, with growing membership across all sites. There are many other low-cost and free community social enterprise gyms and leisure offers, such as Elsick Pool and Marley Gym, as well as a variety of physical activity opportunities in other venues, such as community centres and family hubs. Recently, our libraries have teamed up with Public Health and Ramblers to offer creative opportunities for culture and well-being through the Reading for Wellbeing programme. We have seen £9.4 million investment from the Football Foundation to support us in transforming access to grassroots facilities. Community hub sites have been added at Bollocksteads and Blakelaw. Across these 2 sites, residents have access to 5 floodlit 3G football turf pitches and 12 improved grass pitches, as well as changing rooms, gyms and cafes. Work will soon also begin on a new £28 million leisure centre in West Denton, boasting swimming pools, gym/fitness rooms, library and sports hall. We have a world-renowned museum and galleries to grassroots arts organisations and community voluntary-led initiatives. The Vibrant City portfolio is not without its challenges, however. During the last year, we have developed and published our Green Spaces Management Plan. This includes information on planned maintenance and cutting regimes for grassed areas and details our trial wildflower verges. We have recently participated in the Council's first Scrutiny Spotlight, with recommendations coming to Cabinet. We are also working with our other local authorities in the combined authority on broadening the digital inclusion offer to provide residents with a minimum digital living standard, and promoting the social tariffs of broadband providers to help more residents access the benefits of being online. A priority for 24-25 is to ensure the effective operation of the contact centre following its transfer back to the Council in July. We are doing this through renewing customer journeys, back office processes and technology in place to improve operational efficiency and the customer experience.
30 seconds.
We will continue to work with partners in strengthening the city's cultural identity and accessibility. We will continue to focus on opportunities for investing in the development and the promotion of cultural assets, ensuring that Newcastle remains a vibrant hub for arts, heritage and creative industries. We will continue to make culture more inclusive and accessible to all sections of the community. This involves initiatives to engage underrepresented groups, improve access to cultural venues and integrate culture into their education and community programmes.
Can we start to wind up, please, Councillor?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. There are just a few examples of the great work that this council is doing, working with residents, businesses and visitors. I'm incredibly proud to lead this portfolio and look forward to delivering in the future against our priorities. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Samad. I'll just remind members again that we have 25 minutes for this and we've already used up 5 minutes. I've got 10 requests for questions, which I'll go through. We'll take all the questions together, and if you can take a few notes, Councillor Samad, and respond as best you can. We'll start with Councillor Story, to be followed by Councillor Austin.
Lord Mayor, Council, I thought that the report was excellent, and as it happens, the question that I had, which was about disparities in physical activity amongst residents across the city, has already been answered more than fully, so I'm not going to ask a question. Thank you.
So Councillor Austin, followed by Councillor Hartley.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It was great to read the report. I've just got a question about the role that the voluntary sector liaison group has. The last 3 meetings have been cancelled. Could we do something to ensure that these meetings in future go ahead and for the relationship to remain strong within the sector? Thank you.
Councillor Hartley, followed by Councillor Greenhoff.
Thank you for the report, Councillor Samad. Really good to read about the reference to the work on Summer on the Square. On Hadrian Square, just off Shields Road. I had a great time there over the summer. I'm aware that there's limited time now to spend the available money for the East End High Streets project, of which that was a part, to try and help create more community spaces and to make accessing Shields Road safer and more attractive to the people of Byker. Can you give an update on what Cabinet aim to have achieved by the end of this financial year on that project?
Councillor Greenhoff, to be followed by Councillor Cookson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you to Councillor Samad for his report, and congratulations on him taking on the Cabinet role. The Outer West Leisure project, to be based in West Denton but serving communities across the Outer West, will be truly transformational for our local communities. I remain excited for what the project can deliver, and I'm grateful that the Cabinet member mentioned this in his report. Can he just reconfirm the absolute commitment of this Council to ensuring the delivery of this project for the communities across the Outer West?
Councillor Cookson, followed by Councillor Mark Donnelly.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Councillor Samad, I, like my colleague, Councillor Kane, am passionate about play. We believe it is a child's right to be able to play out, be that a formal play area or on a play street. We've already heard tonight about our role as corporate parents, and I think we'd all agree that play is vital to all children's development. Just this month, we've used some Section 106 money to fund the repair and refurbishment of a play area in Heaton Park when Urban Green couldn't. I note in your report that one of your priorities is to assess the location and type of our assets, supporting residents to play, socialise and spend time outside, and produce an action plan including a strategy for outdoor physical activity as well as a strategy for a future investment in our existing and new facilities. But you'll forgive me, I'm a bit confused. The Council did an open spaces study in 2016 and then produced a play space plan in 2018, which became a 52-page play area investment plan, which was agreed by Cabinet in 2019. Can I ask you how you will ensure that, given limited officer resources, that they'll be able to both review and refresh the investment plan proposed by former councillor in this chamber and now Mayor of the Combined Authority, Kim McGuinness, while actually delivering on the much delayed plan of refurbishing, repairing and building new play area for our kids? Are we at risk of...
I assume there's a question in this, as the Councillor Cookson, because we need to allow time for others.
Are we at risk of leaving an entire generation of kids without the opportunity to play?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cookson. Councillor Donnelly, to be followed by Councillor Cairns.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. On page 21, grass cutting and vehicle tracking, would it not be more productive to cut the grass more frequently? We all know what residents wish to see in the city, and it was also agreed by this City Council in a motion earlier in the year that every other local authority cuts grass more than Newcastle. Councillors may not be aware, but the council already spent 20,000 previously on tablets for grass cutters. That failed. We're now currently spending 43,000 on tablets to advise the staff where to cut. Well, the staff know where to cut. They've done it for years. And also, there must obviously be a glitch in the system because the tablets are telling the staff to cut around the Civic Centre because it's pristine around the Civic Centre, but certainly not within our wards. So the question is, will the council not look at increasing the frequency of grass cutting instead of introducing technology?
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Cairns, followed by Councillor Mark Mitchell.
Right, my question is about grass cutting. I have a different relationship to grass to Councillor Donnelly. However, I would be interested to... you take that however you like. Well, what can I say? I would be interested in hearing about how the council is addressing public concerns over the frequency and management of grass cutting of the green sort.
Thank you, Councillor Cairns. Councillor Mark Mitchell, followed by Councillor Powers.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The Cabinet member is probably pleased that I will not be asking about grass cutting on this occasion, but I will instead ask why in the priorities for the year there is no discussion of the ongoing situation with urban green, since that is a major part of delivering leisure facilities and park facilities to our residents.
Councillor Powers, followed by Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I just want to take a very quick liberty and just congratulating my work and ward colleague on his first report to Council. My question is related, and on page 3 of the report, it highlights the cultural strategy, and I just wondered if the Cabinet member could comment on the benefits of that strategy, particularly in relation to economic growth, job creation, skill development, social cohesion, community well-being, etc. And is there any particular examples that he wants to call out of those successful range of activities and events that's happened?
And Councillor Chisholm, I think Councillor Rahman, did I see your hand raised as well? So that's the final two. Councillor Chisholm and Councillor Rahman, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Samad, for the report. My question is about the call centre. I was pleased to see in the report that you spoke about making improvements to the call centre. Can you tell us a bit more about the improvements that are planned and how they'll be implemented and measured?
And Councillor Rahman.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Firstly, can I welcome and commend the Cabinet member's first Cabinet report to the Council. Our city indeed is a city of culture, rich in diversity and heritage, of which we are very proud. We have strong, steady rise in visitors to our great city. Here, I would like to mention the work of former council leader David Faulkner, who has been a tireless advocate in promoting the city to the 100 or so Newcastles of the world. In fact, we are one of the co-founders of Newcastle of the World, along with Shinchiro in Japan some 25 years ago. Newcastle of the World links cities and countries in friendship, sharing information, best practice and ideas through practical projects in tourism, culture, business, education and engagement. So my question to the Cabinet Member, would the Cabinet Member agree to meet with me and David Faulkner and other advocates to explore Newcastle City Council's support for Newcastle of the World Alliance? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Rahman. Councillor Samad. 10 minutes. There's the challenge, 10 minutes to answer
Thank
questions.
you, Lord Mayor. I've realised I'm not as popular as Councillor Ali, but hopefully I can answer some of those questions.
Be thankful.
I'll start with Councillor Rahman, who just ended the questions there. Of course, I'm happy to meet with him and other councillors. The culture in the city is very important to me, and I'm very happy to meet with you and discuss what we can do to further the development in this city for that. So I'm just going to go off a few in no particular order, so apologies if I don't say yours first or so. Thank you to my colleague for the warm intro on that, and I believe you asked about the Newcastle's cultural activities. The culture strategy emphasises Newcastle's identity as a vibrant, inclusive city by offering a diverse cultural events like Pride and the Lunar New Year. By attracting investments and boosting civic pride, this approach fosters social cohesion and economic growth. Culture-driven interventions like the Novum Festival create jobs and stimulate local businesses, adding significant value to the economy. In terms of physical activity, the City Council aims to tackle physical inactivity by partnering with various organisations to offer affordable and accessible leisure facilities. Investments in grassroots sports, such as the £9.4 million Football Foundation project, provide state-of-the-art community hubs. These efforts are vital in reducing health inequalities and fostering community engagement. I believe a few people asked about grass cutting, which I know is a very hot topic, should we say, in the minute. Balancing different residents' preferences for grass management is a challenge. Some want more frequent cuts, while others prefer natural wild growth. The Council is tailoring new technology like tablets and tracking devices to streamline grass cutting operations and improve transparency. The system will allow for better scheduling, monitoring of team performance and quicker response to residents' expectations on that. I believe there was a question on the customer centre, the customer service. Following the transfer of the contact centre back to the Council in July of this year, the focus will be on reviewing customer journey, improving back office processes and upgrading technology to enhance both operational efficiency and customer experience. Additionally, the Council plans to implement updated customer service standards across all channels to ensure a consistent and improved service for residents. In terms of the Outer West Leisure Centre, we are fully committed to delivering the new Outer West Leisure Centre, a key project that will certainly greatly benefit the community. Due to be completed in 2026, the state-of-the-art facility will serve as a cultural hub, central hub for recreation, support services and community engagement. While we continue to operate from a temporary porter cabin, it is clear that the demand for service is high. We already offer vital support, including housing assistance, universal credit, and digital sessions. The new leisure centre will further enhance our service offering, making it easier for residents to access the support they need in a modern and accessible environment. It will be a place where people of all ages can come together and to improve their health and well-being, whether through physical activity, social interaction, or access to essential services. We are also excited to integrate a modern library service into the centre. Thanks to the successful Library Improvement Fund application, The investment will allow us to expand the services offered at Walkerdome, creating a space where residents can engage with partner organisations across digital services and access digital services and participate in community-driven activities. This project represents a significant investment in the future of the Outer West and its residents, and we are dedicated to ensuring it becomes a vibrant focal point for the community, one that offers a wide range of opportunities for personal growth, well-being and social cohesion. I believe there was a question on the voluntary sector liaison group. Can I just get clarification? Was that on the meetings or am I not allowed to answer that?
I'm not sure where the question came from.
I'm hoping they will go ahead. As far as I'm aware, they should be going ahead. I am meeting with members of the voluntary sector liaison group in the coming weeks to hopefully get those meetings scheduled. So they should be, as it stands. I believe there was one on Urban Green. So the Urban Green report is scheduled for submission to Cabinet on November 25th. We fully acknowledge the importance of pre-scrutiny, and while there are logistical challenges, we are working towards ensuring scrutiny has a chance to engage with the report. I won't say much more on that one as it stands now. With the other questions, Lord Mayor, I don't have the information in front of me right now. I would hope it's okay for me to contact the colleagues across the chamber and respond to them by email, if that's okay.
Many thanks. Yes, Councillor Samant. Yes, okay. Thank you. Within 20 minutes. Thanks very much indeed. Does Council agree to receive the report? We now move on to item 9 on the agenda, and I call on Councillor Colin Ferguson to move the report about the important work that goes on in our scrutiny committees, the Scrutiny Annual Report.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'll keep introductory comments brief because I'm keen to receive questions and provide as many answers as I can to them in the time allowed. Gives me great pleasure to present this Scrutiny Annual Report for the first time. I'm very conscious as I do so that there is a strong legacy of scrutiny in this council, led immediately before me by former Councillor Nick Cott, and before that for many years by Councillor Anita Lower. And I very much look to their model of engaging with scrutiny with members of all political persuasions in the chamber to deliver what I think is an extremely important function on behalf of the city's residents. Scrutiny, I think, is a vital part of political business in the city, and I am looking forward to continuing to develop scrutiny practice, to look at the ways in which we can engage constructively with policy development, and there is reference made in the paper quite rightly to some of the things that we are starting to do, spotlight sessions on specific policy areas, and our desire to deepen and broaden the scope of pre-scrutiny as part of the general policy development process. We must acknowledge within all of this the context that we have the combined authority sitting at a regional level above us, and I'm very keen, wearing both my local scrutiny chair hat and also the chair of the Combined Authorities Scrutiny Committee, to integrate regional and local scrutiny to the fullest possible extent. And I know from the meetings that we have with colleagues in other local authorities how important that is to them, but also it must be said how well regarded the scrutiny function in Newcastle is. I can take no credit for that as a new scrutiny chair, and I think it's thanks to all of the members who have engaged in scrutiny, either as members of committees or coming to scrutiny meetings to give an account of portfolio areas or the like, that scrutiny is so well regarded here in the city. I want to just place on record my thanks to the chairs and vice chairs of the other 3 scrutiny committees. I won't take time naming them, they're in the report. Also to anyone who contributed to any of the task and finish groups over the course of the past year. And lastly, and most importantly, thanks to the officers who have supported scrutiny. particularly those scrutiny officers and democratic services officers who provide the committees with all of the support on an ongoing basis that enables us to do the work that we do, but indeed to every officer that is engaged with scrutiny, sometimes supportive, sometimes challenging conversations, but I hope always productive and useful in the round. So with that in mind, Lord Mayor, very happy to take any questions from members.
Right, thank you very much, Councillor Ferguson. I have 6 members who have indicated a wish to speak, which could be in the form of comment or question, so I'll take the 6 and then I can invite you back in, Councillor Ferguson, okay? So first of all, we have Councillor Penny Evans, followed by Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor. In my role as Vice Chair of Overview and Scrutiny, I'd just like to make a few comments, really, Lord Mayor. I hope that officers, cabinet members, leaders and the leader and the deputy leader have always seen scrutiny as a critical friend who asks challenging questions. I know that sometimes people get a bit nervous coming to scrutiny, but we try our best to make it a relatively friendly process, but we will always challenge. Because scrutiny is an important part of governance. It really helps us to review, shape and ensure that the policy, strategy and services that we operate in the council are benefiting our residents. I also want to place on record my thank you to the outgoing chair, previous Councillor Cott, and all the previous members of Scrutiny. Scrutiny is one of the committees, not just of all of the 4 committees. Scrutiny is one of those committees where you learn so much about the council. But because of that, we have members who come along, join for a year and find an interest and then move perhaps to another committee. So sometimes we have quite a flow of members. So I just want to encourage people to join Scrutiny as well. It is a great place to learn about what's happening, but also to influence policies and to really get to ask some really critical questions. I really look forward to continuing to work with Councillor Ferguson and the rest of the Scrutiny Committee. I think we've really made some headroom this year in shaping how we do things a little bit differently and getting a bit more involved in that pre-scrutiny stage, and I look forward to continuing that work. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Penny Evans. Councillor Taylor, followed by Councillor Barnett.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. As Chair of Health and Social Care Scrutiny, I'd just like to make a few comments, and in particular to emphasise the unique role of health scrutiny in having the right to be consulted on any substantial changes to NHS services in the region, and for being able to scrutinise outside services such as the ambulance service, the mental health trust, and very importantly this year being able to oversee the necessary improvements at Newcastle hospitals following the disappointing CQC report, as well as our being able to look at our own services such as public health and social care. I'd like to put on record my thanks to Jess Hall, our scrutiny officer. She's moving on to a new job and we wish her all the best, but she really has been an invaluable support to us over the last couple of years. And I'd also like to take the opportunity to recommend to all scrutiny members getting involved in the regional scrutiny network meetings. These are online, so it's very easy to be involved, and we can hear from work across the region. That helps us to avoid duplication in scrutiny and to hear about best practice. I think Councillor Lambert will confirm an excellent discussion last week when he presented the Newcastle Task and Finish report on supporting young people into education, employment and training, and I think it really was a very good discussion. So please get involved with scrutiny. I think it's a really useful role.
Thank you very much, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Barnett, followed by Councillor Stone.
Yeah, just to reiterate what's been said previously. As a new member, I found scrutiny very useful to work out the nature of the council, what's involved, who are the key people, what's happening, and yeah, it's definitely been the most useful committee I've been involved with. It sort of informs you about the nature of the democratic process, and I've been really well supported by all members as well as all the officers. So I can't praise it highly enough, especially. So if you do have a chance, do get involved, whether that be for a year or 10 years. But I do want to ask Councillor Ferguson about how he sees the role of scrutiny developing, because he has praised previous chairs. So what does he see himself bringing to the table? How does he see his role shaping the future role of scrutiny?
Thank you very much. Councillor Stone, followed by Councillor Powers.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. This is going to be a bit of a love-in, to be honest, but we're all singing the praises of Scrutiny.
Don't spoil it.
My observations come out, obviously, as Chair of Economy, Jobs and Skills Scrutiny Committee, on which you serve valiantly with me, Lord Mayor. I'm pleased that my colleague in this chamber, or colleague in the chamber and colleague in another place, Councillor Sathian, is to join the Economy, Skills and Jobs and Skills Scrutiny Committee shortly. I would observe, though, that we are still short of members on that committee. I think we do make some valuable contributions. I particularly note Councillor Lambert's work on the task and finish group has been mentioned already, and I think it's been a very impressive job has been done on that. We could do a lot more if we had members to fill the vacancies which are not on our side of the chamber. There are still some vacancies on the other side of the chamber, so I hope that work continue to fill those gaps and we can have a full complement before too long. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
And Councillor Powers, followed by Councillor Huddard.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I wanted to first just echo the comments that was made by Councillor Penny Evans in terms of the vital role that Scrutiny plays in this council in terms of being able to support the priorities of the leading group in delivering for the city, and also being able to work alongside partners across the city and deliver for our residents. What I wanted just to pick out in terms of the report is there is lots of examples of great ways in which we've worked inside this council, across the entire council, in delivering against that work, and also highlight some of the examples of the different scrutiny committees and organisations that we have engaged in. But what was perhaps a little light on, and I wanted to ask the Chair a little bit if there's plans on trying to expand this, is the engagement with the residents in our city outside of those formal processes, and how do we get more residents involved in scrutinising the decision-making of the council and scrutinising our priorities, our deliveries, or even come up with our own solutions about how we might tackle some of the issues that we face as authority. Thank you.
And last but not least, Councillor Huddard.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Might be less of a love in this comment. There is, in the 4 overviews that you give in your report, Councillor Ferguson, only one mention of housing, a housing services review. Now, given the recent changes in the city, and there's a new government which says it wants to build millions of houses all over the country during their term of office, and given the importance of housing to the economy of the city, as well as the well-being of the citizens, do you think a mention once every couple of years in scrutiny of housing is enough? Is it comprehensive enough? That's a question.
Thank you very much, Councillor Huddard. So it started a love in Councillor Ferguson, but maybe it developed otherwise. But anyway, if you'd like to respond to the questions and comments.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Lord Mayor. And just to say at the outset, that's probably a bit the nicest that you've all been to me in the chamber at any point in the last few years. So thank you for that. And I include Councillor Huddard's comments in that. I'll just take each in turn. Councillor Penny Evans, thank you for your comments. I absolutely agree with you that scrutiny has a really important role to play as a critical friend. And I think we have to recognise within that we don't always come to scrutiny to have comfortable conversations, and sometimes there might be a little bit of challenge there. But that's all part of the good democratic process that gets the good policy outcomes that residents expect and deserve. One of the things that I actually really like about scrutiny is the fact that we do get to work on a much more sort of bipartisan and cross-party basis. We all know that the engagement that we have in this chamber is often oppositional, as rightly it should be. But I've enjoyed the time that I've spent with Councillor Penny Evans, and indeed every vice chair that I've worked with. I've enjoyed being able to work on a cross-party basis to try and identify where we can really start to develop and deliver better policy for our residents. Councillor Taylor, absolutely agree about the unique role of health scrutiny, and I think that it has some really interesting powers to do that kind of external scrutiny of partners. And I'm glad that we've got that view of what is happening outside the council chamber. It ties in a little bit actually to the point that Councillor Powers made that I'll come back to in due course. Councillor Barnett, you referred to being a new member and the benefits that has given you joining Scrutiny to understand sort of how the council works and the things that are going on. And I think for anybody who is considering whether they might want to join a Scrutiny committee, I would really want to underline and highlight that point. I mean, Councillor Stone's quite right that we do have some vacancies on committees. And really, we have to recognise that more voices around the table provides better scrutiny, more voices of all political persuasions engaging in that process. And so I would really encourage anyone, either who hasn't been involved in scrutiny for a little while, or perhaps who has never been involved in scrutiny, to look at the opportunities that are available and to see it as an opportunity to really understand and get into the sort of the detail of how the council operates, because I think that is an important point well made. You asked me a specific question about the role of scrutiny developing that, if it's okay with you, I'll come to at the end. Councillor Stone, you also referred to task and finish groups, and I think that the work that Councillor Lambert has done most recently has been well received. I think it's been really high quality work, and I welcome what that task and finish group did. And I think if you look at what task and finish groups do, like for the one that I'm most familiar with is the one that I did myself on budget consultation, it can deliver meaningful change to the way that the council operates. And you know, I think that is a really, really welcome way in which we engage on some of these matters to try and deliver those better outcomes. Councillor Barrs, you asked me about engagement with residents, and I'm going to come to that at the end, just in terms of the role of scrutiny developing, because I think that's a really important point that you've raised. But I'll come just before I do that to Councillor Huddart's question. You asked about housing and how often housing is going to get discussed. I think that's a really important question to ask. I think anybody that sits on a scrutiny committee, and particularly the chairs and vice chairs, will know how busy the work programmes are. You will be aware of how much we're trying to get through. And whenever we were going through the housing review that eventually led to Your Homes Newcastle being brought back in-house, it was something that Overview and Scrutiny regularly brought up about the fullness and depth of scrutiny of housing matters. And it is a really, really big topic. I absolutely agree with you. I think the housing forum that we've got there absolutely plays a part, and I'm glad that through that scrutiny process we've got to the point where the housing forum will do some of that. But I think, you know, as a general point, and I would say this as a scrutiny chair, I think, you know, scrutiny has a particular statutory and legislative sort of position within the overall proceedings, and we know from previous discussions that we've had in this council chamber that there are a range of areas, you know, climate change being one, where some members feel that actually it would be better to have that viewed through a scrutiny lens. Now, it isn't for me to, you know, unilaterally decide. It is a decision for, you know, Cabinet in this chamber to make about the exact form of scrutiny. But I think that you will find me as a scrutiny chair always in favour of furthering and deepening the work of scrutiny in whatever way we can. And I am absolutely committed to making sure that the housing piece gets the fullest possible scrutiny we can, because that is a new area of business for the council. We need to get it right. We need to make sure that the plan for council housing, the housing strategy, all of those bits and pieces come together to deliver for our residents. And so from a scrutiny perspective, however we do it, I'm absolutely committed to making sure that gets the fullest possible view. So I'll come finally just to that point around the role of scrutiny developing. Felt to me ever so slightly like a bit of an interview question, so I'm trying not to get a little bit hot under the collar, but I think it's a really important question. Where are we going to take scrutiny in the next year, 18 months, 2 years and beyond? I think for me, you know, given that scrutiny in Newcastle is so well regarded in neighbouring local authorities, there is a temptation to say, well, okay.
Just a gentle reminder, Councillor Ferguson.
Yes, very quickly, Lord Mayor. The possibility that, you know, there's nothing else we need to do. However, I think we need to absolutely deepen our engagement in the policy development process, not just the policy review process. I think we need to listen to what the Centre for Governance and Scrutiny has said to us about standing committees, spotlight sessions, task and finish groups, and all of the various forms that scrutiny can take to engage with business. I think we need to learn from best practice from the other local authorities, and I'm engaging with the regional networks on that basis. I think we need to review some of the long-standing items that we've had to make sure that Scrutiny's business is being used to the most effective possible, getting the best out of our time. And I think finally, to Councillor Parr's point, we do need to engage outside of this chamber. We need to talk to residents, we need to talk to stakeholders, and we need to invite as many people as possible to contribute to that scrutiny process. So thank you, colleagues. Sorry I went over time. I was trying to keep an eye out, but I failed miserably there. Take it as an indication of my passion for scrutiny. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ferguson. And the fact that I was slightly indulgent probably reflects the fact that I share that enthusiasm for scrutiny as well. But does Council agree to receive the report? Agree. We now move on to appointments, which perhaps are not quite as routine as they might have been in the past. Council will note on the list published on the supplemental agenda, it includes the appointment of Councillor Karen Kilgour as leader of the Council. I therefore call on Councillor David Wood to move this appointment, and this, I understand, will be seconded by Councillor Ellis.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Before I move on to the proposal for the appointment, can I just take this time to make a personal praise to Councillor Nick Kemp for his work as the previous lead of council until he stepped down due to ill health. I hope that he's recognised by members within the chamber. Lord Mayor, I have great pleasure in nominating Karen Kilgour, or Councillor Karen Kilgour, to be leader of council, as well as being a very dear friend of mine. You may have noticed that Carol is also a woman who and I believe that is the first woman to be leader of council, and it's taken until 2024 to get here. So, Lord Mayor, I formally move the appointment of Councillor Kilgour as leader of council.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wood. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you very much, Councillor Wood, for those words. I've got nothing to add there. I just wish to formally second that.
Does Council agree with the appointment? There are also, I understand, further appointments included in the papers as set out. Does Council agree with those appointments? Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. And congratulations to Councillor Kilgour. We now move on to the notice of motion, which is going to test my chairing skills, because we're actually merging the first two motions, motion 11 and motion 12, because there is a linked theme, as I understand. So this is the motion. The first motion relates to valuing our senior citizens, and the second motion relates to withdrawal of the winter fuel allowance. So I intend to call, sorry, somebody's on their feet here. I can't hear what you're saying. I understood it had been discussed with the whips. Can I'm told it's a merged debate and not merged motions. I'm not quite sure. I'll have to look up the legal definition of that, I think, you know. So does that mean then that we are taking the motions separately and voting separately, and therefore wouldn't it be better to have the deal with them separately rather than try and deal with them together? Yeah, I intend to do it that way. Well, what we'll do is we'll try and sort the speakers out, but I'm going to deal with the motions separately because that's easier for me, and I think it's generally easier for members in the council chamber. So I do have a list of speakers which... Sorry? I'm getting a lot of muttering around the chamber. I can't hear what people are muttering about. All I'm saying is that it's easier for me to deal with them now because of the, shall we say, the misgivings that have been presented here, to just deal with them separately in the normal way as motions as amended with amendments, and then we'll go to the vote and then we'll just deal with it in the way that we would normally. I was possibly slightly misunderstood this, but I understood that the motions had been merged, but I'm told that it's the debate that had been merged. I can't quite see, you know, where the defining line is, to be honest, but maybe I need to learn about that. Yes.
A point of order. I think we just need to be abundantly clear here. The opposition's understanding from the last meeting, whenever these motions were originally presented,
yes.
And for this meeting as well, is that there is a single debate, but there are separate votes on the motions and the amendments. So I just want to be really clear that there is a single debate.
Okay.
But we are not being expected to have two debates on what is essentially the same topic.
I'm getting heads being shaken on this side of the council chamber now. So the single debate means that people are speaking, although the motions are separate, they're speaking on both motions together? Okay. Yeah, why do I always get these? Right. I can't hear what you're saying. You'll need to go to the microphone.
Apologies, Lord Mayor. I realise we've probably spent what we would have spent on the first motion just debating whether or not we merge them together and talk about them together. But just to be absolutely clear, obviously my appointment is new, so I wasn't at the previous, the second previous meeting has been discussed, but certainly from my understanding of last night's meeting, I don't remember this conversation taking place that we would merge these, and I'm not aware of what provisions there are on the standing orders to allow us to merge two motions together and debate them at the same time.
Okay.
But I would request that we hear both motions separately and debate them both
Okay,
separately.
not being an expert on these matters myself, Councillor Powers, I'm going to call on my legal advisor on my left just to give us some guidance.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The two notices of motion are broadly on the same subject. Okay, this time? All right, thank you. The two notices of motion are on a similar subject matter, but it's recognised that they are two separate notices of motion. So rather than having a debate on the first notice of motion where the comments will be largely similar to the comments made if we had a second debate on the second notice of motion, the idea was to have one debate. So that means one set of speakers on the actual debate, but each notice of motion remains a separate notice of motion, and each amendment to that notice of motion is a separate amendment. So there will be a vote on each notice of motion and each amendment, but one debate because the subject matter is broadly the same for both notices of motion. This was something that was proposed for the last meeting, but obviously it was deferred until this meeting. It is something that has been done previously in council meetings, so I think it is a practice that is sort of familiar to members. So I hope that clarifies the position, but I'm happy to answer any more questions.
Maybe that's slightly misleading then, in relation to the way it's been set out. So,
I mean, I think, Lord Mayor, the main point is, are members comfortable with what's being proposed, and can we carry on that basis that we'll have each notice of motion and amendment moved and seconded, and then there'll be one debate, and then we'll vote on each notice of motion and amendment.
okay, looking around the chamber, is there a general consensus on that? Yes? Right. Thanks for being so patient, Councillor Huddart, as you always are. So I will then call on Councillor Huddart to move the first motion relating to valuing our senior citizens, and I understand it's to be seconded by Councillor Christine Morrissey.
That's correct, Lord Mayor. So thank you for the opportunity to finally bring this motion forward, and I'll try not to repeat too much of the text and assume that members have read it. Now, this was an announcement on the July the 30th about the withdrawal of the winter fuel allowance, and it took many of us by surprise. And I certainly don't recall it being discussed in the run-up to the general election or in the interviews given by Rachel Reeves about future plans for taxation, etc. And we all have clear memories over the past few years of trying to keep warm during the lockdowns and the recent hikes in energy prices. You know, putting our washing machines to run at 11 o'clock at night, blocking up the windows and doors, wearing extra clothes until you couldn't move, and switching off and cutting down. And it looks as if we're all going to be doing that again this winter. So this news comes on the back of the recent removal, for instance, of the free TV licences for the over 75s. And if this wasn't bad enough, the energy price cap went up again yesterday for about £12 a month for most of us, or £149 a year, which can only be welcomed by the energy companies. Now, the voluntary sector has been scathing about what they see as a betrayal of some of our neediest citizens, as it will be them that bear the brunt of this. They'll be the ones giving advice and guidance through their phone lines, websites, etc. And Age UK has brought out this petition and an advice booklet, and I do hope it's in use here within the Council Benefits Advice Service. Now, the ongoing comments we've heard from the media and financial correspondents have been disappointed about the scale of this action, the lack of alternative financial issues the government claims it is facing, such as introducing a taper or reducing the percentage cut or raising the tax base, etc., have all been suggested, or taxing the energy companies. And we have to remember that this reduction will also affect those in receipts of other means-tested benefits. The winter fuel allowance is only one benefit alongside a whole range of them. And applying for some of these benefits is not easy, and it can take weeks and weeks, and it's just not easy. And I'd like to remind members here about some of the numbers. There are about 11 million pensioners in the UK. Only 1.5 million of them will qualify for the winter fuel allowance this year, and that will leave some 9 million without. If we look at the city here, in 2022 to 23, the allowance was received by 41,260 people. This winter, 7,490 will receive it, meaning 37,769 will not. And for me, that's an average of 288 people in every ward in this city. It's a difference of 81%. Equally as worrying is the information that pension credits are only taken up at the moment by about 63% of those who are eligible, meaning there's a lot more people who could benefit from these funds. And surely this is something that the Council can help with, actively publicising information to help people understand the eligibility criteria. And I'm pleased to read this week that more people are applying for pension credit. The winter fuel allowance may not always target the most vulnerable, but neither do some other allowances. And I know people who are comfortably off and they donate the allowances to charity, or they fund, for instance, thermal underwear for needy people and put money aside for future heating. And as a council, I think we may have a clear duty to explore every way we can to support those affected by these cuts. We must expand the ways we work with our local charities and organisations to improve the information and advice which is given out. And I also mentioned a few of the suggestions in the motion, like working on the refit of council properties suitable for the elderly. And we need to be writing to mayors and the Chancellor, etc., about our concerns. Given the recent vote...
Last 10 seconds, Councillor Huddard. Last 10 seconds.
Sorry.
Yep.
Condemning the removal of this allowance, and reports that some Labour Council authorities have set aside specific funds for the needy, it baffles me that your amendment, a Labour amendment, can talk about reflecting a necessary focus on long-term economic stability and weakening the public finances.
Can we start to wind up, Councillor Huddard, please? Start to wind up.
That's my last paragraph.
Okay.
And weakening the public finances and increased vulnerability to external economic shocks. Can you put your hands up, Labour councillors, when you talk to elderly people in your ward and they
Councillor
ask
Huddard,
you
please, can
why
we finish?
Labour
Can we
is doing
finish?
this,
Can we finish?
and you talk about
Councillor Huddard,
external
Councillor Huddard, can we finish, please?
economic shocks?
Okay.
Well, you are giving people an
Councillor
external
Huddard, please,
economic
I'm
shock.
asking you to leave the microphone. Thank you. Councillor
Thank
Morrissey.
you. Support the motion and reject the amendment.
Councillor Morrissey. Okay, thank you. We now move then on to the second motion, which is the withdrawal of winter fuel allowance. And I call on Councillor Mark Donnelly to move the motion, and it's seconded and stand by Councillor Hartley.
Lord Mayor, throughout the length and breadth of the country, pensioners will be concerned about the coming winter. There are 28 days until the budget is decided. Yesterday, the energy price cap rose by 10%. The winter fuel allowance remained through 6 Conservative Chancellors, only to be removed by the first Labour Chancellor in 14 years. A Labour MP who recently resigned and who described the Prime Minister as someone far above average wealth, accepting expensive gifts of designer suits and glasses, forcing a vote to make many older people more ill and colder, whilst the Prime Minister and his colleagues enjoy free family trips to events most people would have to save hard for, not showing even the slightest bit of embarrassment or remorse. Not my words, but the words of a former Labour MP. The Prime Minister stood in the Rose Garden in Downing Street, preparing the country for the budget on the 30th of October, and he said, "Those with the broadest shoulders should carry the burden." He also went on to say the budget was going to be painful. What he failed to state was that when residents were asked to vote for change, they didn't expect, in the case of pensioners, to be left only with the change, as the government was removing the ability of many to be able to heat their homes to a reasonable standard during the coming winter months. We as elected members need to send a clear message to the government ahead of the budget, calling for them to reconsider this decision. The government cannot, knowing that since 2021, essential goods have risen faster than household incomes, the cost of living crisis and the rise of inflation will not return to pre-COVID levels until at least 2027. So why would any responsible, fair government decide that pensioners can manage on fixed incomes with rising fuel prices and the prospect of a cold winter ahead? And of course, from the current Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, stating it is Labour who will stand up for pensioners, defending the triple lock and winter fuel payments. The situation is becoming more absurd on a daily basis when British pensioners living abroad will be able to keep their winter fuel allowance. This whole fiasco is reckless and wrong and spells disaster for pensioners on low and modest incomes. And of course, if you thought that we were all in it together, think again. After the government wishes to strip 10 million pensioners of their winter fuel allowance, MPs have been claiming substantial amounts in expenses to heat their second homes. And unlike the amount that pensioners receive, which is £300, Rachel Reeves claimed £4,400 for heating her second home alongside other MPs. Bearing in mind that MP salary rose to £91,000 this year, they are really not leading by example. Surely, if it has become necessary for pensioners to be means tested, the same should apply to MPs. It is very sad that none of the MPs, locally, voted to back their constituents. This was debated last month in Parliament. The only MP who supported this motion was MP John Trickett. A quote from Animal Farm: "All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others." George Orwell. Please support the motion, which simply asks the government to do what is right and to keep the winter fuel allowance. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Hartley.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. On July the 5th, the new Prime Minister made a bold but ultimately short-lived promise to cut your energy bills for good. He was repeating a promise he had made during an election campaign in which he also failed to face up to the decisions he would need to take to get our country back on its feet in a way that is fair, inclusive and sustainable. When the Energy Secretary tried to explain away the price rises that came yesterday, it signalled a return to the regressive thinking that we became so sadly familiar with during the David Cameron era of the last government. Age UK have set out how 2 million of those people affected by the removal of the winter fuel allowance will experience hardship as a result. With vanishingly little time to get those eligible for pension tax credit to take it up, and with no clear programme from the government on how they will insulate homes and get energy prices down, it is fast becoming clear that Labour intend to serve up more austerity. It was seeing a decade ago the impact of these brutal economic choices on people's health and well-being through my work as a clinical psychologist in the NHS that first led me to join the Green Party, and others are welcome to join if you so wish, and help us work towards finding social, economic and community solutions to the rising ill health in our population. So many stories I've heard in the clinic room and now on the doorstep in Byker come from people who have fallen foul of a broken system. Is the Labour Party really choosing to continue with the toxicity and psychological harm set into motion during the austerity years? I know this council have, under the years of the Conservative government, used your voice to challenge and criticise the decisions made in Westminster. Your party is now in power there, and it becomes even more important to hold them to account. This issue has come up a lot from residents in the last month. Margaret, on Bothell Street in Byker, told me about how following her husband's death earlier this year, with the loss of his pension and attendance allowance, this couldn't have come at a worse time. Margaret is looking to see how she can make ends meet. What will you say to Margaret if this cut goes through? The very fact that there are two similar motions on the council paper this evening shows the importance of this issue across party political divides across the country. Our motion simply places the responsibility where it lies, with the government. The previous government was rightly asked to make many U-turns. We now need to send a clear message to right this wrong and call for the government to honour the commitment to keep pensioners safe and warm this winter. Whether you vote for the further measures suggested by our Lib Dem colleagues, and I suggest you do in the first motion or not, please vote for this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. We now move on to the amendment. So we'll take the amendment first of all on Councillor Huddard's motion, which is about valuing our senior citizens. I understand amendment to be moved by Councillor Wright and seconded by Councillor Hay. I'd rather you went to a microphone, if you wouldn't mind. Unless you've got the roving mic, unless you've got the roving microphone. Have you? Oh, that's fine, yeah. I didn't realise you had the roving microphone. Yep, that's fine, yep.
Yes, I would like to move this motion.
Is it switched on?
Sorry, move the amendment.
Is it switched on? It's not switched on, I don't think, Councillor Wright. Stop the time, stop the time.
Right, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Right.
Yes, I'd like to move this notice of this amendment as may be necessary so that the amended motion would read as listed on the sheet.
Thank you. Councillor Hay?
Second the amendment.
Second. Reserve your right to speak? No. We now move on to the amendment to Councillor Donnelly's motion, which is about winter fuel allowance, and I understand that Councillor Wright, clutching the microphone, I understand still that you will be moving the amendment.
Yes, the same as before. I wish to move the amendment to this notice of motion as may be necessary, so that the amended motion would read as follows.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Wright and Councillor Hay, as before. Okay, well, we'll now move on to inviting people to speak. And as we said before, although it's not merging the motions because there is a common theme, it's about talking about speakers on the common theme. I'm aware that Councillor Morrissey has reserved her right to speak. So the first speaker I've got is Councillor Lambert.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I'm going to focus very much on pension credit, and I'm very much in support of the amendment. As colleagues across the chamber may be aware, pension credit was brought in under the last Labour government under Gordon Brown as a means of tackling poverty in old age. Over 1.5 million of poorer pensioners in our society successfully claim pension credit. However, sadly, there's roughly about 800,000 who are not, for all sorts of reasons. That's why I support the UK Labour government's publicity take-up campaign to maximise the take-up of pension credit, and this goes hand in hand with the Council's campaign, which was unveiled last week. What I found quite staggering, actually, and I think a lot of colleagues on the Welfare Rights Working Group shared this view, was that in Newcastle, a staggering 4,300 low-income pensioners are simply not claiming pension credit. That's roughly 1 in 3 of the city's pensioners are not getting it. The bottom line is pension credit is set at roughly £218 per week for a single pensioner. But the key thing about pension credit and successfully claiming it, it basically opens up other doors to other benefits, such as the crucial winter fuel allowance of £200 a year, £300 for the over 80s, the housing benefits, mortgage interest relief, access free dental care, and a whole range of other benefits it opens up as well. So clearly, those who have disabilities or have a caring responsibility are entitled to considerably more than £218 a week. In fact, according to Age Concern, somebody who may have profound disabilities in old age or have a caring responsibility, of which many older people fulfill that role, predominantly women, their income could be maximised to about £299 a week. Now, clearly, many people of state pension age, mostly of whom are women, are simply missing out on these vital top-up payments and could be losing up to £56 a week. That's why my colleagues and myself believe that it's absolutely vital that we get more older citizens and residents of this city to successfully claim pension credit, which could make a huge difference for older people meeting their essential needs and avoiding them falling into absolute poverty. Now, we've got a very effective
Councillor
welfare...
Lambert, about to wind up.
Oh, I shall wind up.
Yes,
yeah.
please, thank you.
If anybody... I've got a whole ward breakdown here across the city, and I'm talking to colleagues across the chamber. If you want this information, I'm happy to provide it to you. Okay. But I think, very sorry, this is so important.
Come on, Councillor Lambert, can you please wind up?
Important.
Wind up, please.
I am winding up.
Okay,
for
very
the first
quickly.
time ever.
Very quickly.
That it's absolutely vital that elected members play their part with the Council's Welfare Rights Service, Citizens Advice, the Search Project and other agencies like Age UK.
Councillor Lambert, please, it's my third request.
Your third request will be granted that pensioners successfully claim this vital passport benefit. Thank you, colleagues.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Lambert. Can I now call on Councillor... sorry, yes. Is that seconded? Yes. Is that agreed by council? No. No. Vote. Go to a vote then. Can we? What? Yes, if you can just give me the figures. Yeah, we'll just go round again with the hands. Councillor Morrissey, you're a yes. Councillor Allen? Yes. Councillor Stone? Yes. Any other hands around here? Councillor Huddart? Yes, okay. Councillor Ashby? Councillor Ashby? Not quite made your mind up yet by the look of it. Have you made your mind up? Right. Well, you hadn't quite made your mind up. So if you can tell us then, rather than fiddling around with go vote, your vote? Yes. Yes, okay. We've got everybody on this side. If you can just say, shout your name out of the back, because I can't actually pick people out. I think we've got Councillor Cairns, have we? No. Chatwell. Bam. You're a no. That's 3 no's at the back there. Any others on this side? Missed any on this side? Got everybody? Okay, let's just do the arithmetic then. So the vote is 29 in favour, 32 against, so the vote falls, the motion falls. So guillotine will fall at 8:30. Okay, so if we just return to the speakers, which I think I'd called Councillor Taylor, to be followed by Councillor Mark Mitchell.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. For the last 14 years, we've been told, time and time again by the members opposite, that austerity and cuts made by the coalition government were not needed and were a political choice. That the admission by former Chief Secretary Liam Byrne that there was no money left was irrelevant. We were told that concerns about how the market might react after the 2010 election were exaggerated. Yet now, only 3 months into a Labour government, we are being told by Commons leader Lucy Powell that without the cut to winter fuel payments for millions of pensioners, Britain could have had a run on the pound. But let's be clear, cutting the winter fuel payment is a political choice, and it's being made at a time when energy prices are about to increase and when we have a cost of living crisis. Yet we know that elderly people, particularly those with chronic ill health, are at increased risk over the winter months. Of course there are pensioners such as myself who don't need the winter fuel payment, but the government's current plans have set the bar far too low, and those who just miss out on pension credits will be worse hit. Liberal Democrats are not the only people saying this. Age UK has written to Rachel Reeves urging her to rethink the plans. The charity warns that at least 2 million older people will face severe hardship this winter unless she widens the eligibility criteria for the fuel payment. Director Caroline Adams said if the policy is to be introduced at all, then it shouldn't happen so quickly. And if it's to happen in the future, the pool of pensioners entitled to the payment needs to be made far wider. Labour MP Rachel Maskell said, with the cost of living payments and winter fuel payments, an increase in the energy price cap and the cost of living, pensioners are frightened about how they're going to keep warm this winter. The York Central MP asked Rachel Reeves how she will protect pensioners who are above the pension credit threshold in order to prevent cold, ill health or worse this winter. And Labour MP Sam Rushworth said, the village of Copley in my constituency is the snowiest in England, and we have many pensioners in receipt of the basic state pension who are nevertheless in fuel poverty. They're not entitled to pension credit. They live in cold, stone-built houses. What assurance can the Council give to these pensioners that this government will help to keep their warm their homes and ensure they do not struggle to heat their homes this winter? Lord Mayor, I never expected much from a Labour government other than being better than the Tories. But I certainly didn't expect to see a refusal to scrap the 2-child benefit limit, the scrapping of the planned cap on social care costs, and the scrapping of the winter fuel payments within the first 3 months. Sir Keir Starmer wants to do away with targeted payments, but there is widespread disquiet in Labour, which traditionally argues that universalism matters for poverty prevention because it generates public support for welfare spending. So I hope we can all support this motion, which calls for the Council to write to the Chancellor to express our great concern about the effect on our city's pensioners of this cut, as well as making sure we work with others to try to keep our residents warm and to try and reduce the damage being caused by this cruel measure. Keir Starmer says he has to take tough measures, but there are tough measures and there are cruel measures, and this one is cruel. I note the members opposite can't even be bothered to try and defend their government's appalling decision. Please support both motions unamended.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Mitchell, yes. To be followed by Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to start by thanking Councillor Lambert for his remarks. I think the work to encourage people to take up pension credit is hugely important, and I think that is something this whole chamber can agree on. But I'm going to talk about another group of people who Councillor Taylor has already alluded to. We all know people who do not qualify for pension credit, people who are still just getting by, whether because they have higher housing costs or personal circumstances that mean they don't have the money. And they are the people who are losing out. So everybody in this chamber knows somebody who's going to lose their winter fuel payment and is not going to get pension credit. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the Chancellor's odd decision to apparently lump pensioners in with non-DOMs, although I will query the fact that the Prime Minister clearly doesn't understand that the whole purpose of the triple lock was to provide security to pensioners, and that just saying, oh, well, you're getting a rise under the triple lock is not the answer to taking away the winter fuel payment. Instead, I'm going to ask the Labour group why they're sitting on their hands and why they are doing nothing specific on this. Because calling on the government to act is not sufficient. Other Labour councils and other Liberal Democrat councillors are looking at specific measures they can take to support pensioners who will not get pension credit. And that is something that I would expect the Labour Cabinet and the Labour group to be standing here tonight telling us what measures Newcastle can take to support these people, rather than sitting on their hands and saying nothing.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson. And as we're now approaching the guillotine, I would be able to take one more speaker, and I think that Councillor Powers, did you indicate? So I'll take Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Powers, then I go back to the seconder, don't worry, Councillor Morrissey, and the movers of the motion. Okay, Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Lib Dem MPs in Parliament have been leading calls for the new government to rethink this damaging decision being debated tonight. Our party's analysis shows that an estimated 41,540 pensioners are at risk of losing the £300 payment in the city. This is despite the average energy bill being set to rise by £139 a year just this month. Undoubtedly, some pensioners receive a payment when they don't need one. But what of those on the margins, not in receipt of pension credit or other benefits, that this move will callously ignore? Government ministers offer desperate defences. They claimed that the rises in the triple lock pension, introduced when the Liberal Democrats were in government, will save those affected. But the last I checked the calendar, April comes after the winter. So it's as much use as an ashtray on a motorbike for anyone worrying about choosing between heating and eating in the next 6 months. Reaction against this swinging cut has come from across the political spectrum, including some brave Labour MPs, as Councillor Taylor has noted. But will the Labour Party save us from the Labour Party? Not on the strength of the amendments in front of us this evening. Labour must get its priorities straight. It must decide who and what it stands for. That the economy must be stabilised after the disastrous stewardship of the profligate, reckless Tories is not in question. That pensioners on the breadline should be the wedge on which to do it absolutely is in question. Rolling out warm hubs, retrofitting and upgrading homes, all worthy measures that we should be doing anyway, and so I welcome them. But to ask the voluntary sector to step into the breach when organisations are already operating in this space, overstretched and under-resourced, is not a serious answer to the question before us. It was 14 years ago that Labour told us that there was no money left. Maybe those previous governments referred to in the amendments include the one led by Gordon Brown. They waited 14 years for a Labour government to come galloping over the hill and save us all. Now that your white charger has come over that hill, does it really turn out to be a paddock donkey? Council, let's not equivocate. This is wrong. We know it's wrong, and we should say so.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Powers, and then it will be Councillor Morrissey to exercise her right to second the motion.
Apologies, Lord Mayor, for not getting up quicker. I just wanted to come on the debate. First, I wanted to comment on the motion that was put forward by Councillor Donnelly. I think it's one of the worst motions that we've been presented to in this council, a motion that's designed for scaremongering, for fearmongering, that lacks in any practical solutions about what we can do to address the problems of winter costs for pensioners. I think I was quite surprised, to be honest, though. Reading the Lib Dem motion seems very different than the debate that took tonight. I mean, I think basically our amendment could be taken as a friendly amendment. For the Lib Dems to stand there and to accuse us of not being brave enough to call on the government to withdraw the decision when they did not even have the guts to put that in their own motion and ask us to call for it to be withdrawn. It quite clearly states in their motion that they want us to write to the Chancellor to express our concerns about that decision, and we've continued to commit to do that in our amendment. What we've also done is to strengthen the request that's already been put forward in articulating to residents, and which we should all be committing to doing, to explain what mitigations are we putting in, not only this year, but what we've put in previously when there's been a huge spike in energy costs to support residents who are worried about being able to be heating their homes, such as the warm hoods that we've done before, and many other things that are being put forward. Now, I think it's incumbent upon us all, rather than fear-mongering, rather than scaring residents, to go out there and explain to them the things that are available for those that are genuinely in need. And we should also remember that not every pensioner who's losing the winter fuel allowance is in need and was receiving that money because they needed it. When you take some of the quotes that was in the media about pensioners who freely stated that they put their money towards a holiday fund because they didn't need it. For those that said they donated, maybe some of the more ones that felt a bit more charitable, who chose to donate it to charity because they feel they didn't need it. Not every pensioner needed it. There are 27% of pensioners in this country that have a combined income and assets of over £1 million. Those pensioners did not need support. What the Labour government is committed to is ensuring that targeted support goes to those who are most vulnerable, who are most in need. Now, if we want to have a sensible conversation about whether or not the baseline is low enough to make sure that everyone gets supported, I quite welcome that, and we could have that conversation. But this blatant grandstand and fear-mongering to our pensioners does nobody a service.
Thank you, Councillor Powers. We'll have Councillor Morrissey, and then we're winding up with Councillor Donnelly and Councillor Huddard, of course, who to respond. Sorry?
Thank you. My colleagues have already made some excellent points, which I won't repeat. However, what I want to add is that pensioners are similar to children in their specific vulnerability to poverty and the significant effects that changes in policy have on them. Several years ago, Labour's own research suggested thousands of pensioners could die if the then government proceeded with its plan to cut winter fuel payments for those not on benefits. Sir Keir Starmer warned that Conservative plans to cut the fuel allowance for 10 million pensioners would increase excess deaths by over 3,850 that winter, and said that this was the single biggest attack on pensioners in a generation in our country. So why the U-turn? Why, if it was unacceptable then, is it okay to do so now? Well, apparently, it's all down to this 2 million black hole that was found. Or in reality, is the black hole just a cruel political device to give the government an excuse for abandoning its election promises not to raise taxes and to provide a pretext for cutting welfare payments that it doesn't approve of? Instead of penalising some of the most vulnerable members in our society, why doesn't the Labour government put greater efforts into recovering income from tax evasion and other white-collar crime, which is currently running at £200 billion a year? Which begs the question, does Lord Ali declare all his business interests and pay tax in this country? And to remove the avoidance of all doubt, I paid for my clothing myself for tonight. Many pensioners are not in a position to increase their income by getting a job due to ill health, disability, frailty, etc. Many others live on the very basic income of just over £200 a week and don't have private pensions, or may have a very small pension, which then puts them over the pension credit threshold. I've spoken recently with an 83-year-old woman who has a pension from when she worked as a bus conductress over 60 years ago. She said it was a struggle to pay the pension at the time. The money deducted from her wages was badly needed, as she was a young widow with 3 small children. However, she was reassured by her friends this would help her to have a comfortable retirement in her older years, and it was some source of comfort to her then. It actually has made life worse for her, as she's £2 over the cut-off point for pension credit. She'd voted Labour all her life, as she believed they cared about working people. She, along with many others, are now sadly disappointed. I've just looked and saw that I've only got 33 seconds left, so I think I'm going to cut to the chase here. The removal of the winter fuel allowance will undoubtedly drive some pensioners into poverty this winter. This then increases the support required from other welfare services provided by the local authority and voluntary sector organisations, when budgets and services are also being cut. So, I'd like to encourage colleagues who regard themselves as the party of the working class to join with me in supporting Councillor Huddart's motion and show that they really do value our senior citizens.
Thank you. Councillor Morrissey, thank you. Do I see Councillor Donnelly straining at the leash there to... yes? Councillor Donnelly, if you'd like to speak, respond to your motion, and I think Councillor Huddart as well. Councillor Huddart, would you like to go to the microphone as well? Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. At no point during the election did any Labour MP mention that the allowance would be scrapped. Instead, they used the rhetoric of vote for change. Their manifesto started by stating a change to stop the endless Conservative chaos that has directly harmed the finances of every family in Britain. And yet, weeks into the job, 10 million pensioners were told that they'd be left in the cold this winter. It went on to say, restore hope, stop the chaos, turn the page, rebuild our country. Gary, a pensioner, said, energy bills have shot up so much. I live in one room in the house. I've struggled to keep warm. I can only afford to heat this one room with a portable heater. Sometimes I sleep in the armchair to save money. It's no way to live. This is an extract from the Labour Party manifesto. I don't believe Gary would have thought the solution was to take £300 off him when he was already struggling to heat his home. We need to send a clear message this evening from our residents to the government that the winter fuel allowance must remain to safeguard the health and well-being of our pensioners across this city. This is a cruel and unnecessary cut by central government, and none of us want pensioners to be left in the cold. Worse still, people will die if this is implemented. The Prime Minister keeps stating it is the responsible thing to do to fix the foundations of our economy and bring back economic stability. Why, therefore, is it at the cost of pensioners being left in the cold? Government is about choices. Don't take away the income from pensioners. And to reply to Councillor Powers, this is not something that is being brought about through Councillor Donnelly, Councillor Powers. Not everybody has a Lord Ali to rely on. And I'm sorry, but I find it very insulting that the message that's come across the floor from the other side of the chamber is that it's a jolly for pensioners. It's part of their holiday fund. I hope that Councillor Powers, when he's knocking on doors throughout the city, brings that to everybody's attention, that in his view, the majority see it as a jolly, as a holiday. That's disgraceful, Lord Mayor. That's cruel, Lord Mayor.
No.
Sit down. Sit down.
Councillor Donnelly, I'll deal with this. I'll deal with this. No, Councillor Powers. I don't, Councillor Powers, I don't think he was making personal comments. I think he was making an observation about your observations. Okay, Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, that's correct. I hope that our motion will be supported this evening. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Huddart.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I have a personal comment. I'm standing here in my designer Marks and Spencer's cardigan, paid for by me, with a matching pair of spectacles, paid for by me. Right. And I am expecting my Swifty tickets in the post any day now. Right. Thank you for your comments, everyone. It is a difficult subject, I know, for everybody, and it must be even more difficult for the members on the Labour benches. But I do find it pathetic that you try to justify this with terminology that you have, talking about difficult decisions, reflecting a necessary focus on long-term economic stability. Well, please go and say that to the people in the all people centres that we run and the luncheon clubs, etc. And then talk to them about weakening of public finances and increased vulnerability to external economic shocks when they are now subject to your economic shocks. Do you think that cutting the winter fuel allowance is a good way for a Labour government to show how it values senior citizens? And do you want our senior citizens here in Newcastle to believe that spending another cold winter is the way that they are valued by a Labour council? I find it very difficult to think how you are trying to justify this action, and I do hope you are squirming in your seats. So thank you for your contributions, and we reject your amendment.
Thank you very much, councillors. We're now past the guillotine. Yes, Councillor Ferguson.
I call for a name vote on the two motions and the amendments associated.
How many people do we need for name vote? 10 we need. Do we have? Okay. I think we have sufficient there. I'm advised by my legal advisor we have sufficient there for a named vote. So we are now... Okay. So I assume this is a named vote on the First Amendment, because we're dealing with two amendments and two motions, of course. Do I need to ask for two named votes on? Okay, right. Well, this is a named vote then on the amendment. So first of all, we are voting on the amendment to Councillor Huddart's motion, which is about valuing our senior citizens. So can we vote on that amendment? And if we go around the chamber again, we've got Councillor Stone. You're voting no on the amendment. Councillor Huddart, no on the amendment. Councillor Morrissey, no on the amendment. Anyone else on this side? Back at the back again. Councillor member there. We've got three at the back, haven't we? Councillor Cairns? Yes. Councillor Shapwell? And a yes as well. Any others on this side? Have we got all the votes? We've got all the votes? Okay. So the vote is 31 in favour of the amendment, 28 against, so the amendment is carried. So we are now voting on the motion as amended. So that's Councillor Huddart's motion as amended. Does Council agree with that motion as amended?
We are abstaining.
Well, well, in that case, let's put it to the vote. Okay, so we are now voting on Councillor Huddart's motion as amended. Can we press our votes and raise our hands and Councillor Morrissey? Abstain. Councillor Stone? Councillor Stone, abstain. Abstain there, and at the back again here, going from right to left. Yes? Yes? And yes. Any others? Have missed anybody? I've got all those. Right, so the vote is 32 in favour of the motion as amended, and what was the abstention again? 29 abstentions, so the motion as amended is carried. We now move on to voting on the amendment on the second motion, which is Councillor Donnelly's motion about withdrawal of winter fuel allowances. So we're now voting on the amendment to the second motion. Councillor Stone, Councillor Morrissey and Councillor Huddard. So Councillor Morrissey? No. 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 And at the back again, have we got the... Yes, yes, and yes. Everybody on this side? I guess it's 31-28. Okay, so the vote is 32 in favour of the amendment, 29 against. So we're now voting on Councillor Donnelly's motion as amended. So can we have that vote on that? Councillor Donnelly's motion as amended. Okay, Councillor Morrissey? Abstain. Councillor Stone? Abstain. Councillor abstain. Yes, yes, and yes. 3 yeses and 3 abstentions. Sorry? Okay. So the vote is 32 in favour of the motion as amended, 29 abstentions, so the motion as amended is carried. We now move on to the motions that we haven't been able to discuss this evening to see whether we want them dealt with or carried over. And item 13 is the right to garden, Councillor Kane's motion. Deal with it tonight. Do you have a seconder? Yes, sorry. Give him a nudge, give him a shake. Ashley, okay. I don't think we have an amendment to that motion, so we'll... oh, we do have an amendment. Sorry, we do, yes. It's sort of whatever. So, somebody moving the amendment? Councillor Williams moving the amendment to be seconded by... Seconded, right. So we're now voting on the amendment, of course. So can we take on the amendment to the right to garden vote? Councillor Huddard? No. No, that's a no. We're voting on the amendment, by the way, so that's a no, a no, a no. Did I see another hand? Councillor Morrissey, have you voted? Yes? No. Is it that bad? Is the meeting that bad? Yeah, so we'll move on to this side. At the back, three hands going up at the back. Yes, yes, yes. So this is the vote on the amendment to Councillor Kane's motion of right to garden. Yeah. Right, so we've got 32 in favour, 27 against, so we're now voting on the motion, Councillor Kane's motion as amended. So can we have the vote on that? Is that agreed? Sorry? Agreed. Okay, that's agreed. Good. That's fairly straightforward. Okay. And we're now moving on to 15, because we dealt with 14 earlier on, which is Councillor Stone's motion. Next meeting, okay. And I understand that number 16 is not entirely straightforward because somebody is moving an amendment to the amendment. Is that right? I don't know.
Yes, that's right, Lord Mayor. I'll signal my intention early that if the amendment is carried, then it is my intention to submit a further amendment to the substantive, which is why I'm standing here.
Okay, right. Seeking my legal guidance on this. Yes, yeah.
Yes, Lord Mayor, just to confirm, that is permissible under Standing Order 16E, which allows an amendment to be moved without notice where it results from the council having approved an earlier amendment to a motion. I think it would be helpful if Councillor Ferguson could explain what the further amendment would be. So,
do I need to do that now or wait until the amendment is carried?
I hope you're not looking at me for an answer.
I think before we get into the excitement of the votes, I think it might be helpful to set it out now what the change would be.
Very well. I will move under Standing Order 16E that if the amendment is carried and becomes the substantive motion, that the final bullet point under Council believes be amended to read as follows. That if austerity is a choice made by successive Conservative and Liberal Democrat MPs over the past 14 years, then it is a choice being continued by Labour MPs. Thank you.
Okay, Lord Mayor, perhaps if just to clarify the process, the motion needs to be moved and seconded, the original.
Okay. So Councillor Ferguson is moving the original motion to be seconded by Councillor Mark Mitchell. Sorry, are we? Well, hang on a second. Yeah, is that right? Yes? So Councillor Mitchell, yes, second the motion. And then we move to the amendment, which is going to be moved by Councillor Frew. Yes? And seconded by Councillor Kilgour. So we move to the vote on the amendment. Yeah. Okay, so we're now voting on the motion as amended by Councillor Frew and Councillor Kilgour. So we're moving to the vote on the motion as amended. And I see that Councillor Ferguson's hovering by the microphone.
Just in case you need me again, Lord Mayor, that's all.
Right. Okay.
First amendment.
We're voting on the amendment as proposed by Councillor Frew and seconded by Councillor Kilgour. Go around the table again. So this is the vote on that. Councillor Morrissey. Have you been able to vote from there, Councillor Ferguson? Yeah, okay, yeah. Councillor Stone? No. Councillor Huddard? Or are you just scratching your head? No, okay. And on this side? Yes, yes, and yes. Okay. It's yours, yeah. We've got another one over there, Linda. Far side. Far side here. Far side. Yeah, okay, yeah. Right, so 33 in favour of the amendment and 28 against. So normally we would then return to the motion as amended, but perhaps you can guide me on what we do now.
Yes, so Lord Mayor, it's now for Council to vote on the further amendment that Councillor Ferguson has proposed to add that or to change the bullet point in the notice of motion as amended, or as it would be amended by Councillor Frew's amendment. I hope that's clear to everybody. So the vote is on the change to Councillor Frew's amendment, and it's to add or to change the
Would it be helpful to read it again?
Yes, I think it would be helpful to read it again.
Yeah. Right.
To change the final bullet point under Council believes so that it reads as follows. That if austerity is a choice made by successive Conservative and Liberal Democrat MPs over the past 14 years, then it is a choice being continued by Labour MPs. Thank you.
And I'm assuming that's not seen as a friendly amendment to the amendment. Right. We're voting on that?
Yeah, we're voting on that.
Right, we're voting on the amendment to the amendment. So we are voting on the amendment to the amendment, which was the one just submitted by Councillor So do we have a second? Did we have a seconder to the amendment to the amendment? We did, yeah. Okay, right. Right. So we're now voting on the amendment to the amendment. Okay, everybody clear? All clear? Yeah. Okay.
Morrissey. Councillor Morrissey.
Yeah, Councillor Morris, Councillor Stone, Councillor Huddard. Oh, sorry, Councillor Huddard, yes. And then on this side, yes, at the back, Councillor Cairns, Councillor Chatwell, and Councillor, yes. So we've got 3 at the back, and then 1 on the far side here. On as well, yeah. Yeah. Okay, okay, okay. So the vote on Councillor Ferguson's amendment is 33 against and 28 in favour, so that amendment is not carried. So we now go back to voting on the original amendment as unamended, if you see what I mean. So we're now voting on the original amendment as unamended that was moved by Councillor Frew. So can we vote on that amendment?
Or is it agreed?
Or have we had the vote? We haven't had the vote. No, we haven't. Have we had? Oh, we had. So we're now going back to the motion as amended.
Yeah.
Yes, right. So we're now going back, right, okay. So we're now going back to the motion as amended because we voted on the amendment that wasn't amended. Right. Yeah, okay. Is it agreed? Okay, that's agreed. Fine. Thank you. We now go on to number 17. God, my blood pressure. We go on to 17 now, which is compassion in politics. I'm asking Councillor Hartley whether you want to deal with this or defer it. Okay. And finally, motion 18, Councillor Ferguson, to be seconded by Councillor Mark Mitchell on an independent inquiry.
Hold it over, Lord Mayor.
You want to hold it over? Yeah, there's a surprise. Right, okay. Right, that's fine. That concludes the business of the evening. And the next meeting of Council, it will be on Wednesday the 6th of November. Can I just remind councillors, if you would, out of courtesy, just remain in your seats or remain in your positions until myself and the Sheriff have left the Council chamber. Thank you very much. Shall I take my...